Filing a lawsuit to stop the state of Missouri from what they call an unlawful attempt to convene a special legislative session to redraw congressional district maps. The NAACP and its Missouri chapter, they argue the move would cut voting power of black voters. Stopping the Trump administration's attempt to cut $2.2 billion in research funding from Harvard University, a federal judge who says it was about exerting power to suppress free speech. Medical groups saying they're alarmed over Florida's move to end all vaccine mandates, even for school children. Florida Surgeon General Dr. Joseph Ladapo.
Every last one of them is wrong and drips with disdain and slavery.
The medical groups say it'll put children at risk and threaten children around them with underlying medical conditions. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker says the Texas National Guard is preparing for a Chicago crime-fighting deployment. This is ABC News. With talk but no plans for a meeting between the Russian and Ukrainian presidents, President Trump at the White House was asked about it.
I have no message to President Putin. He knows where I stand, and he'll make a decision one way or the other. Whatever his decision is, we'll either be happy about it or unhappy. And if we're unhappy about it, you'll see things happen.
Police in Jacksonville, Florida, got a morning surprise at a local Chick-fil-A restaurant.
As we walked in, we see a little kid sitting at the table eating his breakfast with one of the managers.
5-year-old named William, barefoot. Cops say he apparently snuck out of his house. Managers gave him a breakfast sandwich. Officers took him home. His shocked mother.
It's kind of scary, actually, because we didn't realize what was going on until after we came out.
On Wall Street, the Dow closed lower, the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ indexes closed higher. Chuck Severson, ABC News.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Hi, I'm Chuck McDowell, the timeshare cancellation guy. In 2011, I founded Wesley Financial Group with one goal in mind, to help honest folks out of their timeshares permanently. Today, I run Wesley with my two sons, a real family business, treating every client and every employee like we'd want our own family treated. That philosophy has helped us grow into the largest, most trusted timeshare cancellation company in the United States. Fortune magazine even recognized us as one of the best places to work. Why? Because we genuinely care. In fact, some of our former clients were so moved by their experience working with us, they joined our team so they could help others to timeshare freedom. If you're stuck in a timeshare, give us a call. Let our family help your family.
Call Wesley now for your free timeshare exit kit. 800-549-8866. 800-549-8866. 800-549-8866.
The views and opinions of the following show do not reflect those of WSMN, its owners, and/or associates.
Welcome to the Common Sense Conservatives, a political discussion group about current events and other government-related matters every Wednesday evening from 7 to 8 p.m. Right here on WSMN 1590 AM, WSMN 95.3 FM, and streaming live on wsmn.live. Making sense of the inverted reality we are subject to every day, the Common Sense Conservatives are here to help bring you back to reality. Now, your hosts, Chris Wyatt, Todd McKinley, and John Grosvenor.
All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Common Sense Conservatives. I'm Todd McKinley, Northeast Tennessee, joined by my co-host, Colonel Chris Wyatt, somewhere in the great beyond there, it looks like. Where are you tonight there, Colonel?
I'm in England still for the Women's Rugby World Cup. Got some big games coming up this weekend. The USA women can qualify for the quarterfinals, but they're going to need some help. They've got to win big and get a bonus point victory over Samoa, which is possible and not challenging. But the real issue is England has to destroy Australia, which is also possible. But the point differential has got to be a big point swing because they'll wind up tied. And then it comes down to who scored the most points in the tournament. And Australia whacked the Samoa side 73-0. So that's a lot of points to make up. Anyway, that's the situation. So I'm here for that. Got a couple games weekend, then Spain plays on Sunday, and then it's the quarterfinals the following week.
Oh, there we go. John, how are things there in New Hampshire, and holding down the studio as ever, John Grosvenor in Nashua?
Doing well up here in Nashua, New Hampshire there, Todd. Before you ask, John Sununu, brother to Chris Sununu, former governor of the state of New Hampshire, is contemplating a run for U.S. Senate in this next upcoming election. He feels pretty confident about getting into this race and winning it.
Well, what are your thoughts on John? Or is there any thoughts on him, or how is he like there in the state? I imagine the Sununu's they're well known for sure, but how are they liked after the most recent governor there?
Well, I'm not exactly certain how well he's liked with the general public here in New Hampshire. He had been a representative in first district here in New Hampshire for
Okay.
97 to 2003, I think, and then he went to a one-term Senate seat, and so he's thinking about returning. He says somebody's got to run for New Hampshire, somebody's got to stand up for New Hampshire. He is a critic of Donald Trump, and that was been brought up to him, and he just commented. He said, that's I'm running for New Hampshire. And as far as Donald Trump comes, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. So we'll see how things go. We'll see, Chris has been we've seen him kind of ride the middle a little bit, a lot. And sometimes you even wonder if he was a conservative at times, although he always stood by our gun rights, and much appreciation for that. And hopefully if John Sununu runs, we'll hear a lot of good things from him. And hopefully he stands like Chris for freedoms here in New Hampshire, as opposed to throwing us under the bus with the liberal left.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And here's the thing, people talk about, he's criticizing Trump or whatever. You're the president of the United States. You should be able to stand a little bit of scrutiny, if you will, a little bit of criticism, even the bad stuff that's out there, even if not warranted, you should be able to withstand that. I mean, me sitting on the local school board, I get it, not necessarily every day, but once or twice a week, I get shots from different people, people that support him in the past, even people who don't support me for sure. So you can take a little bit of criticism, I think.
So look, Donald Trump loves criticism, right? I mean, he always vies for criticisms. Give it to me, because I'll just spin it back to you and throw it back in your lap. I don't care. One way or another, he's going to use it for him or against you or whatever. It's like us here, Common Sense Conservatives. I beg for the criticism. I say, send your hate mail. We'll take it. We're doing something right. We haven't got any hate mail yet, or at least George hasn't passed any along.
He's burning it, maybe. I don't know. Yeah. So Colonel, what is your assessment on the whole Russia situation? I see that they're buddying up even more with North Korea and China and India. Some of the U.S. Tariffs and our strategies backfiring a little bit, it looks like, maybe.
I don't think so. This has been the case all along. The media are acting like this is something new and a new development. The only new development here is the behavior of the Chinese communists who are trying to take credit for defeating Imperial Japan in the Second World War. Nothing could be further from the truth.
Right.
Nothing could be further from the truth. They played virtually no role. The role was played by U.S. forces. The Soviets were trying to come lately just so they could seize Manchuria and come in late to the contest after Japan was essentially defeated. And the Kuomintang under Chiang Kai-shek and the American Volunteer Forces group over there, they played major roles. The communists were busy killing other Chinese, and they did play a role defeating Japanese, but they were not the proximate cause for the Japanese Empire ending. That was 2 nuclear weapons, one over Nagasaki, one over Hiroshima, and U.S. forces, island hopping across the Pacific. That's what spelled the doom for the Japanese Empire, which was overextended. But the communists want to take credit for it, and the media are stupid, lazy, and don't know history. And so they're pretending like this grouping of Xi Jinping, president for life, Kim Jong-un, dictator for life, and Vladimir Putin, fascist dictator who just doesn't seem to want to go away, is something new. Before the Putin ever launched his conflict against Ukraine, he went to Beijing and got an agreement from the Chinese communists to buy his timber and his iron ore and his oil and all these raw materials and pay him in hard currency so that, when sanctions came, they would survive. And that's one reason why Russians have survived since they invaded 3 years ago. So that's not new. And of course, the Chinese have always been the saviors of the North Koreans. They're the ones who crossed the Yalu River after MacArthur violated directions from President Truman. So this is not something new. It's not something special. It's not something amazing. It's nothing to do with the tariffs. It has everything to do with just a axis of evil. To quote George Bush, It's an axis of evil, and it's always been an axis of evil. And so the press have the memory of a 2-year-old. They can't remember anything past what they had for lunch, and that's the problem. Historians know what happened in the Second World War, and it sure as heck isn't the Chinese communists winning it. They didn't even defeat Chiang Kai-shek, who was weakened by 30 years of war until 1949, 4 years after the World War ended. So they can bite me.
Yeah, right. Was that the weakened by the Sino-Japanese War? Is that the one you're referring to?
Yeah, so Chiang Kai-shek, well, just that, but there was also civil war before the communists
Okay.
arose, and basically China was at war with itself for a good 3 decades before, from about 1912 onwards until 1945. And then those two sides fought each other after the Japanese withdrew from China at the end
Right.
of the war. So it took 4 more years before the communists could defeat Chiang Kai-shek and Kuomintang, who were mortally wounded by fighting for China all those years. And so the communists want to take credit, but they're just a bunch of what's the word I'm looking for? Interlopers. And remember that they murdered 30 to 40 million Chinese in their so-called Cultural Revolution, which was really more like genocide,
Right.
ethnic cleansing.
Absolutely. I think Truman would have something to say about how much China played in the 2 atomic bombs that he dropped on Japan, for sure.
Yeah, no, the Chinese want to take credit for it and pretend that no one else was involved. And the Russians, of course, they aren't the Soviets, but they're the heirs to the Soviet Empire. And so they're going to kind of claim that they were also involved. I think I'm hanging up here a little bit. You guys give me a little gap there. I think I can fix that. Hang on a
No,
second.
no, you're coming in fine on my end over here.
He may have froze up though.
Well, as soon as I say that,
yeah, he was having troubles on his end. We were getting well and fine, but that's all right.
Right. Yeah, he'll pop back in here in just a second. So for those who don't know, who are just joining us, Colonel Chris Wyatt, still out of the country, undisclosed location in England right now, actually covering the Rugby or Women's World Cup. And there's the Colonel. He's back in there. Colonel, we were hearing you fine. And as soon as I said that, you logged off for a second. I was like, well, I guess I was wrong.
I was still here. I don't know how I got bumped off, but.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, we're getting some, now we're getting them.
Yeah, now we're getting now we're getting the freezing and all that good stuff. Hey, did you see this, John, today? Former CNN host Don Lemon basically raided Marjorie Taylor Greene's office and demanding a meeting along with several other people, pretending to be peaceful actors, if you will, trying to force their way in, harassing a number of their staffers, trying to demand a meeting. And of course, whenever the office manager came out and basically said, listen, we have a formal process of going about this to actually request a meeting, and basically said, well, you're not even a resident of her district. How dare you bust in here and start videoing us and demanding a meeting and pretending as if you're being peaceful about it. So that's Don Lemon. Did you see that today?
No, I did not see that. That's pretty interesting. So this is like a trend for the liberal. You remember that time when Russia and China was having a meeting and Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton went and busted into the meeting, demanded to be a part of it, and I think they got ousted.
Yeah, as they should, right?
This is a liberal left thing, I guess. I don't know. We just demand to be parts of things we don't belong. I don't know.
Right. Well, I've had people do that on the left as well. As you go out and run for public office, like demand, your time, demand you listen to them, demand, you listen to whatever their comments or complaints are. And it's like, first off, I'm not in the office yet. You need to go complain to the person who's actually holding the office. And they just love to blister you, though, up and down, one side down the other.
Yeah, most times you go to DC, if you call ahead and make an appointment, they're very glad to give you an appointment. Now, if I call Rand Paul's office from here and tell them I want an appointment, sit down as an individual, they'll tell me to go find your senator. We can't be dealing with you. We represent Kentucky. That's
right.
Well and fine. But if you're a group of people, an organization, and things like that, most times they'll accommodate you. They'll fit you in somewhere, and they may disregard what you have to say, but they usually will give you the time.
Yeah, they give you the cursory 3 to 4 minutes. Go ahead, guys.
But this isn't a visit. This is theater.
Yeah,
it's political theater. Don Lemonhead and his band of merry little lunatics went there to intentionally cause chaos. None of them should be allowed in the building. Don Lemon is not a journalist. He's a political activist. He has no business in the Rayburn building whatsoever. So he should never have been allowed there. I've been in the Rayburn building. I imagine Todd's probably been in there as well. It's where they house all these folks. And, it's really not a place that you should let people like Don Lemon in there. The guy is just a fraud. He's always been a fraud. He's a whiny, crying little baby. And look, this is just pure theater. They just went there to stage and make it look like they're doing something. The Democrats have no policy, no platform, no plans for America. This is all they have is disruption and counting on corrupt judges to violate the Constitution and pretend that laws override the Constitution. The Constitution is supreme. And we are going to see several court cases that the Trump administration has lost this week to corrupt judges and circuit courts. They're going to be overturned by the Supreme Court. Just give it time.
I like the way you worded that. I don't know if you caught that, Todd, but it's the building in which they house our members of God.
Yeah,
like they're
caught that.
prisoners.
Yeah,
Help, get us out, please save
like
us.
it's an asylum or something, right? That's where we house them.
Well, if you've ever walked in that hall, you'll see a lot of pompous, self-important clowns who are just used car salesmen and shyster ambulance chasing lawyers that think they're better than the rest of us, and they're not. Some of them are erudite, some of them very intelligent, some of them very patriotic, but most of them are just scumbags sitting in Congress, sucking down a paycheck for decades on end. Speaking of which, I heard the Penguin is going to retire. Did you guys hear about that?
No, I didn't.
Jerry Nadler.
Yeah, he does look like the Penguin. I mean, he's right out of Central Casting for that role, right?
Oh, he is. He should be in the next Batman movie.
If they have one, yeah.
I mean, think about it. You put Danny DeVito,
I think they destroyed the
Danny
franchise.
DeVito's character, and him right beside one another. It's like, how do you tell the difference, right?
I think that Jerry Nadler makes a better Penguin than Danny DeVito.
I love it. Love it. Right. Well, what's funny is whenever they catch him on the street many times in Manhattan, and they'll go up to him and interview him or talk to him, and they'll ask him questions, and they'll use his own words against him. They'll be like, "Did you hear that Trump said this and this? Yeah, I don't really like that. I don't appreciate that." It's like, actually, Congressman, that's your words, by the way, and they laugh at him and run away.
That's funny. The ultimate setup.
Yeah, well, you were actually the one who said that. Oh, wait a minute, I'd have to look at that. I'd have to go back and review that. Maybe you're using it out of context. I don't think so. Anyway, the Epstein victims, we're going to bring that up real quick, and I'm not going to try to harp on it, but Epstein victims press lawmakers to support bill to release hidden files, say Americans will be appalled. And, I imagine, yes, they will be appalled. But my contention is with the whole thing, people ran on there being files and all this stuff, and then all of a sudden what we get is I hate to use this word, big nothing burger, right? It's what we pretty much got out of it. I mean, you got a few things here and there, but what was promised of being there isn't there apparently.
It's from my understanding they released 3,300 pages of toilet paper, more or less. I mean, it's useless. Right. And the whole purpose was just to try to pacify the people. It's like, we're not stupid people. We're not stupid. Don't treat us like we're dumb. We already know all this stuff. Then don't release it like you're doing us a favor.
Right. And they had the big event, several months ago back at the White House. People came out with, here's the, list 1 or whatever it was, document number 1 release. And where did it go? Nothing after that. And I get it. I get it. You can't release people's names who maybe or may not have done something. They have to stand trial. I get that. But, there should be able to way to redact certain things and release a lot more information if there's stuff there. I don't know. Anyway, that's the last I want to talk about it. But
I don't know. But did you hear? Okay, you got to follow that up with this breaking news, man. About 5-6 hours ago, about 9 women that were victims of Jeffrey Epstein said they had enough, and they know who was there, and they remember who was there, and they're thinking about constructing their own non-official list of people that have been there because they want justice, and this is what we talked about in the past. Is it's necessary to seek justice in matters like these. This was a terrible crime against people. It's a crime against society when you think about it, but these people were directly involved, and this was a terrible crime against them. They deserve it. They deserve to have the justice.
Right. Oh, I agree. I agree.
Where have they been throughout the past 5 years? Why are they speaking up now? Well, they had 4 years under Biden of not being prosecuted. Why now? I mean, I'm not.
I don't know. They may have been working with members of Congress that have been pushing it off. I have no idea, Chris. I would like to get a hold of some of them and invite them in to explain that to us.
I get it's a horrific experience for those involved, but this seems very politically self-serving at the moment. And again, I lost some viewers because their feelings were hurt because I got sick of people droning on about the Epstein files with no evidence whatsoever. People coming into my chat making silly arguments, demanding that I talk about the Epstein files, and I'm like, why are you people so obsessed with this? If that's your obsession, go elsewhere. I mean, we've reported on the case, we've given the current situation, and there's nothing to see here, nothing to talk about. But the Trump's covering up. Trump's Trump's not covered up anything. Trump even asked the courts to release the documents. Of course, grand jury testimony is not going to be released, and now Congress is interjecting itself in a place where it shouldn't be, and they're releasing files and 33,000 pages, additional pages on top of the stuff that the Trump administration released a few months ago, when all the extreme right-wing people said, "Oh, we're getting," and then they found nothing, so they're feeling this. They started attacking Trump. I mean, it's not Trump's fault that there was nothing in the material released, because Trump didn't generate this stuff. The justice system did. But anyway, the whole thing is salacious, and I find it quite annoying that it's still going on. And I'm glad they released it, because I'm tired of hearing people moan about it. And once again, they'll find nothing. So if people have got something they can offer, evidence of people who've committed some sort of crime, then let's get with it. It's been 5 years. Epstein's been dead forever. It's not like it's going to hurt his feelings, or he's hiding in an island in the Caribbean
I
that
don't
we
know if
don't know
he's
about.
been
Who
dead
knows?
forever, but it's been a little while now. There is people like Thomas Massey who's calling for the release. There are other files that have not been released, and Thomas Massey and a few other members are calling for the release of these other files, but they need the majority vote to get them, and they haven't got it yet. So maybe down the road we'll see something come of it that's actually something substantial.
I mean, what other files? Grand jury files, grand jury testimony cannot be released. Federal judges have repeatedly, 3 of them said no, and so they keep trying to shop this thing around. The House has released 33,000 records on top of the Trump, and these are from the Justice Department, presumably. So what files are left? Are they Justice Department files? Are they? I don't know. Are they somebody's notebooks?
All I know is they
it's-
took a
anyway.
buttload of information out of that mansion. When they raided his house, they took stuff. They had CDs out the hindquarters. I forgot how many hours of CDs they had. It's a phenomenal amount. They had, of course, if it's got pornographic material on it, you can't release that to the public.
No, of course not.
You can
Of
make
course
a
not.
statement at least. Hey, we found some notable people.
Right. Yeah. 10,000 hours or of whatever kind of porn or whatever, that was made there on premise.
Well, I mean, guys, that's all very important. It's all salacious. It's criminal activity. The justice needs prosecuted. But as someone interested in national security and politics, I'm much more concerned about the buttloads of documents and material they seized from John Bolton's residence. A man who betrayed this country, a man who compromised top secret classified information, a la Hillary Clinton. That's something I'm much more interested in. There's no discussion of that in the press, nothing whatsoever. Because once again, the Epstein files have come up to cloud over and paper over the real news that's breaking out right now, which is John Bolton. And that's not even being talked about by the media, but they're talking about Epstein.
Well, let me ask you about John Bolton. They didn't arrest him. They raided and took out a lot of documents. And somebody said the other day, I was watching something on Fox News. It was a soundbite basically saying, oh, it was the information that we were after. We weren't after him specifically, but the documents. And I'm like, yeah, but if he had the documents, he's the one who committed the crime. He should be going away with the documents in handcuffs, right?
Well, you would think. I mean, when we take the time to hunt down and prosecute former Navy service members who've left after their enlistment because they took a photograph of their buddies inside a submarine, not revealing any classified equipment or classified information, but sending them to jail for compromising classified information for 12 months as a convicted felon, destroying the man's life. But we let Hillary Clinton walk after she stole top secret, sensitive compartment information, compromising billions of dollars worth of collection capability and putting this nation at risk over and over again, that has the arrogance to say, did you wipe the computer? With the cloth?
Yeah,
come on.
And she knew exactly what she was doing whenever she did that.
Of course.
She's trying to be cute.
Of course.
She's a piece of crap.
They're all like this because she knew she was untouchable, but no one ever go after her. No. They'll never go after her. They'll never go after Biden for his crimes. They're not going to go after Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, James Comey, any of these clowns who betrayed their oath to the Constitution, to the nation, who perverted the means of justice, who committed perjury in front of the FISA court to get warrants against Carter Page and against General Flynn on the flimsy evidence of a cooked up, bogus, fake dossier, and then relied on Five Eyes partners to spy on American personnel in violation of the Constitution, using our Five Eyes partners to spy on Americans, which is illegal, by the way. I can tell you that. I know because I worked in that community. Nothing's happening to any of these people involved in this. There's nothing happening to anybody in the Biden regime who used Twitter and used Facebook and Instagram and YouTube to silence the speech of Americans in violation of the First Amendment. These are issues people should be talking about. These are criminals that must be hunted down and put in orange jumpsuits and spend the rest of their natural life in prison or face a death penalty, because these people are a threat to democracy. Not Donald Trump, not the MAGA movement, not conservatives, but
I
these
agree with you. Real quick, somebody in one of the chats said Five Eyes question mark. I know what it means. Can you explain it real quick? Five Eyes?
Sure. Five Eyes is a euphemism for the 5 Anglo-Saxon countries that share information in the signals intelligence world. So signals intercept information and share.
No,
This is
no,
not a
yeah,
secret.
it's
You
open
can look
source,
it up on the internet. Yeah, but it's the United States, United Kingdom, Australia, Canada, and New Zealand. So those countries, so you'll find that we can have Americans working inside those top secret facilities in the United Kingdom, in Australia, in New Zealand, in Canada, and vice versa. And so, for instance, I worked in the National Security Agency, and we had liaison officers from all those countries, and I dealt with them all the time. And I visited some of those countries on occasion to visit their facilities and to facilitate things we're working on. So, yeah, it's called the Five Eyes because they're looking, spying. Five Eyes. And we had famously, the British had someone from Cheltenham, which is the headquarters of GCHQ, which is the government communications headquarters, which does what NSA does, except for Britain. And one of these leftist hate wankers disclosed top secret information collected through signals intelligence, compromising about a $14 billion acquisition program the U.S. had developed and making it almost useless because they hated George Bush during the Iraq campaign. So Five Eyes is what we're talking about there. So anyway,
all right,
there you go.
real quick, Pete, we're going to stick with national security. Pete Heck says he issues stark warning to drug traffickers following U.S. military strike on Venezuelan vessel, which I looked at that. I'm like, it looked like to be nothing more than a glorified bass boat that the Navy took out. You know, maybe I saw a bad video or something.
Well, it's interesting you say that because I got the impression it was like some big ship or something like that, initially a cargo ship, and 11 people were killed. I'm like, what about the rest of them? Then I saw the pictures, and it looked like somebody had something put on a lake to go bass fishing, and I'm like, well, they must have got them all.
Yeah, it's like how is that thing going to make it to the United States? I'm like, it's probably going to sink first. I would just watch it sink and then pick the people up and say, yep, it didn't work out for you. Return them to shore. You didn't have to kill them. I mean,
it takes more money than just to bomb them and be done with it.
Right.
I suspect that off the coast of Venezuela, there are a lot of heavily narcotized and intoxicated sea life right now because cocaine's sinking.
They're having a good time. Yeah,
you got fish are swimming sideways now.
But what are your thoughts? And I saw some stuff on social media the other day, basically criticizing Trump and Pete Hegseth, the DOD, for using U.S. forces in this type of manner. What are your thoughts on that as a defense expert?
Well, it comes down to the question of how you classify the threat. And of course, the euphemism the war on drugs has been used since the 1980s.
Yeah.
Is it truly a war on drugs? We have wars that are undeclared. Yeah. Korea was a Korea was a war that was undeclared. We never declared war on Korea, but it was a war nonetheless. I don't know that we ever declared war on Vietnam, North Vietnam, but we did fight a war there. So you can argue that the war on drugs is a war. It's just against not formal nation states as such, with a few exceptions. So in that situation, that makes it legitimate. I'm a little surprised that they blew the thing up. Normally we try to intercept them, and I'm not sure why we didn't just try to intercept unless they're trying to send a message. And I think they sent a very clear message. This week we had a major narco trafficker from Mexico convicted and sentenced to life in prison in the United States. And for that, he offered testimony in his allocution, and he said, hey, for years I've just paid off the military, the police, the judges in Mexico. We can get away with whatever we want in Mexico. Basically saying that Mexico is a narco-terror state. That's basically what he said. So this is huge development, both the life sentence for that narco trafficker from Mexico and this boat being blown out of the water off Venezuela. Of course, they're losing their mind because Trump sent all these boats down there, but there's a bigger message here. It's not just to the narco traffickers. It's also to Venezuela, which was the intent. Maduro's paranoid. He thinks that the Trump administration is going to try to do regime change, but Trump has never done regime change. He's just defeated his enemies on the battlefield and moved on.
Absolutely. Yeah, but I guess the idea is, go off their coast, the international waters, don't let them move anything anywhere unless you allow it, basically.
Yeah, well, he said, let this be a warning. And they put it in all caps on his social media. He said, you guys, don't mess around with America. This ain't going to work.
Right. Absolutely. Folks, you're listening to the Common Sense Conservatives right here on WSMN 1590 AM and 95.3 FM. We're live every Wednesday night from 7 to 9 Eastern. You can also catch us out on the internet at wsmn.live. That's wsmn.live. Joined by my co-host, Colonel Chris Wyatt, who's over there in England. I guess he's going to stick around for the first hour. And John Grosvenor, as ever, holding down the studio. Getting a little dark there. I like the lights behind you there, John.
Yeah, I can brighten it up a little bit if I want to. I got the. Oh,
No,
you
we
like
don't
the Christmas lights? And
No, it's fine. It's starting to look a little bit like Christmas. That's what I was thinking.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Well, the Secretary of State, going back to the Venezuela strike, basically said we're not going to sit back anymore or sit back and take it anymore. Essentially alluding to the fact that, there's probably more strikes in the offing, if you will, moving forward. And I think it is, like you said, Colonel, it's sending a message to the president there and saying, listen, your time is up. You probably should move on because, you got nothing at this point. We're not going to mess around with you anymore.
Well, it's funny you should mention that because I watched an episode of The Big Bang Theory recently, and there's a line in there in which Sheldon, then someone else says, because they I think he told Will Wheaton, he said, you probably should just go, and then later Amy told you probably should just go to Raj. So I'm just saying to Maduro, you probably should just go.
Yeah. At this point, yeah, your position is untenable. You should move.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, look, the history of Latin America is one of sadness. I mean, we've had countries that are the fourth largest economy in the world in the 1930s, Argentina, and now it's been a basket case for 50, 60 years after fascists took over the country in the 1930s. Venezuela was one of the biggest oil producers and one of the wealthiest nations in Latin America, and now it's a place where people eat rats out of garbage cans. And 8 million Venezuelans have fled, many of them to the United States, and I wish they'd go home to Venezuela. But as long as a self-serving autocratic fascist dictator like Maduro runs the country, then they're not going to go home.
And think about this. In our own country, we have people, and I had a call from somebody today, who was relaying a message to me. Wanted to do this anonymously, and they're afraid. Well, they're not afraid of me, but they're afraid if I talk to somebody about the issue, I may use their name, and then all of a sudden they'll be reprised against. And I'm like, you think about that. People are afraid in this country, the United States. And I'm thinking to myself, well, you probably have the wrong people in office. You should probably unelect them, if you will, the next go around if you're too afraid. This wasn't somebody that I represent. It was somebody from a different district asking some questions because they're afraid to actually go to their person that represents them. And I'm like, probably the wrong person to have in office. Probably should kick them out of office next go around. And we have an election coming up just just this next year, less than a year away.
Well, you can use the phrase.
You probably should just go. Yeah, I'm gonna start using that one. You should probably just go. Yeah, but afraid to bring it up to their representative, and I'm like, this is kind of like dictators in like Venezuela and other places. This is like, if you had an issue, you wouldn't bring it up to Putin because he'd probably put you to death. You know what I mean? Like, or disappear you with some sort of mysterious cancer that you didn't know you have. That kills you within 10 days.
Yeah.
No, that's
right.
What are you going to say? What are you going to say about that?
Well, and that's just one of those things. Like, this is how this country goes in that direction. If we don't vote out bad people and just continue to go along, sit on our hands, don't speak up. This is how people that have ill intent gain power.
I think Americans become weak there.
That's a fair point.
You talk about people fearing reprisal and all this other stuff. Don't mention my name because it might backlash. Stop being so weak. Grow spine, man.
Right.
I mean, what happened to men in this country? It's time for men to be men again.
And it's funny is similar situations. I see people that post on social media talking about Second Amendment in case your government becomes tyrannical. I've even had some of those people call me and ask me questions, and it's like, why didn't you reach out to your person? Well, they're too afraid. It's like, so you're talking big game about the Second Amendment, but you're too afraid that your local representative is a tyrant. I thought you were a big 2A guy. I'm not saying go kill the guy, but where did the tough guy go? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I see a lot of people with a lot of big talk until it's time to do something, and all of a sudden they cower back, looking around, waiting for somebody else to do it. It's like, come on, man, you put it all out there, let's go.
They're the ones that say you'll find out. You'll find out. It's like you never find out because they never do anything. You'll find out. No, we won't.
But John, do you know what causes that, right, John? Do you know what causes that, right? You said, where are the real men at? Those who live off municipal water supply are ingesting far too much estrogen from all the birth control pills that are being flushed into our water system, and then the water being treated. The estrogen is finding its way back into the bodies of the
Is this an
men,
actual
and
thing
now
that
we
you're
have
talking
beta
about, or you're
boys.
just kind of throwing that out there?
Actually, I'm being facetious, but actually, there's truth to it. They've seen deformed fish, male. They've got the wrong sort of behavior because of the estrogen chemicals that have made it into the water system because of birth control pills. Yeah, it comes out in the urine.
Oh wow,
Comes out in the
no,
urine. Anyway,
there's an actual
yeah. So I was being facetious
No,
about the dudes, but
no,
it's a
but
true story.
regarding what you're talking about, though, there is some truth behind plasticization. So we're drinking out of plastic bottles for decades now, and it's getting into our systems and stuff, and it's supposed to be lowering the testosterone levels in men.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know about that, man. I take 80 grams of testosterone every 3 hours.
Every
I think I'm
three-
good.
All right.
You don't want to know what Chris is lifting
It's
weights
a little.
with.
I got a little bit of. I got a little bit of roid rage going on here, boys.
He's curling 500 pounds each arm, right?
That's right. And speaking of, doing the right thing, look, Todd and I have done it. We've stepped up and run for office, and I spent a buttload of my life savings to run for office last year in a fruitless effort against a corrupt political party, which I didn't even know was corrupt until I was already in the middle of the campaign.
Oh, well, that's how it works, and it's always the most upstanding, goody Republican that behind the scenes, is one of the most dangerous and vile people that are out there, and I see it in Tennessee on a regular basis. But these are people that get the applause whenever they go to places. It's like, oh, somebody's so great. No, so and so is actually horrible and would probably eat your children if given the opportunity, or if they thought it would be a few more votes for them.
That's the thing about, we've talked about this on the show before, what's it called? I almost got the word here. Sociology and psychopathy. Thank you. Throw me the big ones. Yeah, people on level psychopathy have an advantage, right? And a lot of times that's what they seek is positions of authority: doctors, lawyers, cops, political office. It doesn't mean everybody that's a cop or a doctor or a lawyer in political office is on the level of psychopathy, but it's hard to diagnose people on psychopathy too. So they give them, evaluations and stuff before they get them into positions, say law enforcement. But you may not know what you're looking at when you're doing so because they're that good. They hide it that well. They probably don't even know. It's but they have advantages because they don't have the same emotional intelligence other people have. They don't function that way.
Right. Go ahead, Colonel.
I got to tell you, everything. All I need to know, I learned from kindergarten top. Boys have penises, girls have vaginas.
Right. Who does your daddy work for? I never watched that, but that's straight to the point.
It's not a tumor. It's a tumor. It's not a tumor.
Did you see what Gideon said here?
That's a funny one.
He's talking to you, Chris. He says, this explains
What's
why
that?
fishing this year was a bust. The fish was temperamental.
Yeah, that's funny.
So did he say the fish had
a
bust?
What? Yeah,
they had a bust.
Had a bust. Sure enough,
all the
that's funny.
estrogen, yeah.
Look, we joke around, but folks, there's been real studies on that. There's been real studies on that about fish in certain bodies of water, like in the estuaries and riverine and the Chesapeake Bay and stuff like that, having high levels of estrogen and compounds as a consequence. I mean, I was joking about the men, but it's a true story that this stuff doesn't get broken down necessarily, and it winds up in urine and it works its way out. So pretty scary stuff there. We have altered our world in ways that are more frightening than the climate zealots want to talk about. They want to talk about us changing the weather. And we've actually changed our local environments with landfills and with our sewage systems and with our dense populations and things like that. It's just, anyway, but I don't want to scare people here. The more you know, the more you're frightened.
Yeah. If you don't know about it, you don't know to be scared. So, I guess ignorance is bliss, right?
I've actually heard people say, I wished I could go back to being ignorant. I wished I did know what I know now.
Right. Once you see, you can't unsee, as the saying goes, for sure.
Yeah.
So
Republicans. I think, in fact, sorry, Todd, there's a little breakup there. I didn't realize I was talking over you. In fact, I think that if all the data on the Epstein case was actually something that was released and we knew it was all out there, some people regret finding out what they found out.
Yeah, probably so. I think you're right. This story right here sparked a thought here. The Republicans in Washington are actually looking to close loopholes across the nation that gives driving privileges to illegals. And last week I was in Tampa for the American Legion National Convention, and as I was trying to leave, pulled out my driver's license, as I've done dozens of times, handed it to the guy, and he said, "Oh, this doesn't work for travel." And I'm like, "Why not?" He's like, "Oh, it's not one of the what do they call the
Real
special
ID?
Real ID.
real ID?"
Real.
And I'm like, "Really?" I said, "I thought it was." And I looked at it. He said, "Look right there. It says not for real ID purposes." I'm like, "Do you realize?" I told him, I said, "Do you realize how many times I've traveled on this?" I said, "I traveled here to Tampa on this ID." And he's like, "Yeah, you're not supposed to be." I'm like, "That's your guys' system. You guys allowed it." And of course, I had other IDs to be able to travel on.
Well, of course, you had a
Right.
military retired ID card, which is
Right.
real ID. That's all you need.
But and I've had that one turned down a couple of times before. In fact, I had it
But
turn
that's not
yeah, on the
acceptable.
way to Tampa, I had that ID turned down. I had to use my driver's license, and it worked, no problem. And I'm like, man, I've used this non-real ID probably for at least a dozen flights now, unbeknownst to me. And I'm like, holy cow, it's not a real ID. I didn't even notice. It's in fine print right there, not for real ID purposes. So I'm gonna go maybe this week or next week and get a real ID.
Well, I noticed because Pennsylvania gives you the options, one of the last states to come around and actually produce real ID. You can get a real ID for $100 or a driver's license for $25. Given the fact that I have a U.S. passport and a military ID card, that was a pretty easy decision to
Right.
make.
Yeah. I'll go.
25
I'll go
bucks.
upgrade it, like, because and I probably should carry my passport with me even on domestic trips. I'm probably going to start doing that, but I will go get the real ID here in Tennessee. I think it's only like 20 some bucks, so no big deal.
No, it's 100 in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. They fleece you pretty good there, making excuses. I'm sure one day they'll probably stop issuing, but there's no reason to issue real ID because I have 2 biometric IDs. So anyway, but yeah, it's just another way to take money out of people's pocket and another way to track our movements so they can use it against us. Yep.
Right. Oh, absolutely. But it was just kind of funny that, here's TSA, something we spend billions of dollars on security and all this stuff. We have to have the real ID to get through security. And I've been doing it, probably for the past 2 or 3 years on number of flights. Like I said, a dozen flights, probably less than a dozen, but at least 10 flights I've used it on over the past couple of years. And, probably shouldn't have been doing that, but TSA allowed it to go through. No problem. I think that's on them.
I think it's like a kick in the teeth, this real ID nonsense, because, they only passed that law in 2005. They couldn't implement it until 20 years later.
Right.
Now that it doesn't matter, they let a bunch
Exactly.
of illegals into the country anyway. I mean, what's the point?
Right.
Yeah, it's 100% of that. It's kind of like when you're on active duty, you're automatically enrolled in TSA Pre, so you don't have to enroll or pay for that because you're serving the military. You're a trusted agent. And I was told by the military that that's the case for your retirement because you have a permanent DoD ID number now, not your Social Security number, and that works. After I retired, for the first year after I retired, every time I flew, I got a body cavity search because I wasn't TSA Pre. I'm like, what are you talking about? Here's my ID. Well, sir, you're not in TSA Pre. So I finally had to go and pay to get into TSA Pre. And I finally found out why. And the Department of Defense says they can't vouch for you. You can't vouch for me. You give me a damn retirement check every month. I'm still a colonel. I'm subject to recall. If I commit a crime, at your decision, you can activate me and bring back an active duty to prosecute me for that crime. If I commit a civil crime on a military installation or federal property, they can order me back to active duty and you, Todd, to prosecute us. What do you mean you can't vouch for me? What a crock that is. So I got to pay this stupid thing, which runs out after 5 years. In fact, I think next year is when it runs out, and go do this TSA Pre thing, which is like rectal bleeding.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah.
I kind of digress, but I thought that was kind of important.
Oh,
Since we're talking
absolutely.
about
Yeah,
real ID.
I did the pre-check whenever it came out several years ago, and I've re-upped it recently. And I do it because I used to do a lot of international travel, like not quite as much as you, Colonel, but on a regular basis. And I just love being able to just slide right through, and get in and get out, and not have to wait in these long queues. I just don't like that.
Well, the thing for me is it's invariably, it seems like whether it's Atlanta or somewhere else, every time I arrive, the damn TSA pre-line is not open. They've closed it because, I mean, I've been in Atlanta like 4 times and I go to get the TSA pre and it's closed. I mean, well, we shut down at 7 p.m. or whatever time. Like, then why am I paying for this?
Right.
And if I go to Harrisburg, if I go to the TSA pre, there's like no one in front of me. If I go to the other line, there's like 2 people. So
Yeah.
what
Same
did
thing
I
with our
gain?
regional airport here. Yeah, it's The line to the left is like 3 or 4 people. The one on the right's usually nobody. So I like having it, so I don't have to, because I'm usually, get to the plane with just a few minutes to spare on occasion, and I love to be able just to fly through security. That helps out locally.
Two advantages to it. You don't have to take your
Yep.
shoes off, but that's been
Yep.
rescinded now. The shoe bomber has been so long ago. So no one has to take their shoes off, and you don't have to pull your laptop out of the
I
bag.
love
So
that.
that's an
Yep.
advantage.
Was that to prevent people from getting athlete's foot?
No, they had Richard Reed, the shoe bomber.
Well, it's because they have advanced enough sensors can detect that when you walk through the full body scan, and they had them for years, but they were still forcing people to take their shoes off because they're a bunch of perverts.
Yeah, I remember doing that. I'm like, the first time I went to the airport and I had to take my shoes off. I'm like, I gotta stop flying. There's gotta be a better way to travel.
Yeah, well, there's no quicker way for long haul.
There isn't. They haven't done that whole beam me up
your-
Scotty thing yet. So
No, get your own plane. That's a better way because you come in a different terminal. You don't go through any of that nonsense.
what I need to do is become a billionaire so I can do private flights and I don't have to worry about any of it.
John Travolta is not a billionaire. He's got his own jet.
Yeah,
but I like the billionaire aspect better.
Yeah, didn't Qantas give him an airplane?
Okay, fair enough.
Qantas gave him an airplane to fly with their logo on it, and gave him an outfit, made him an official pilot of Qantas. This has been decades ago, probably now, at least a decade ago or more. Yeah.
Really? I mean, that's pretty crazy. Qantas has never had a fatal crash. You think they wouldn't want to take that risk with a Hollywood actor?
Right? But because they were negotiating with it, they called him up. They're like, "Hey, he was talking about loves the aircraft, loves their, I guess he collects pilot stuff or whatever." And he's like, the CEO was like, "Hey, John, we'd love for you to fly one of our planes." He's like, "How much?" Basically, John was thinking, "Well, how much how am I going to have to pay basically to put their logo on my plane?" Which I'd love to have it on my plane. They're like, "No, John, you don't understand. You're going to advertise for us. We want to pay you. We want to give you a plane." So they gave him an actual plane.
Well, I mean, look, all I can think of is if I'd be on the plane in the cockpit with John Travolta, it'd be like Vinnie Barbarino. I'd say, hey, John, could you lower the landing gear? And he'd be like, what? Me?
Yeah. Great show, by the way. Yeah.
So I would play the role of Horseshack. Ooh, Mr. Carter, Mr. Carter.
Yeah, the sweat hog. So
that was a great show. Yeah, the sweat hog.
So have you been keeping up with the election in New York, the mayoral election?
Yes, I understand that apparently it's been leaked that some folks in the Trump administration are considering offering Eric Adams a post in the Trump administration if he would just withdraw from the race. I'm not sure the logic behind that, because if he's in the race, that's another 10% of the Democratic vote that gets carved off, which gives Curtis Sliwa a better chance to win, in my view. But I'm not really sure what they're going after there, unless they think that I think it's an effort by the Trump administration to make sure that a Democrat actually wins, so that Cuomo becomes the mayor. That's pretty frightening. I'd rather take my chance and get Curtis Sliwa, but they're all worried. Look, I mean, imagine this. We are becoming like the United Kingdom. Our cities, which have a minority alien population, are being taken over by people who hate Christians, who hate white people, who hate the West.
Yep.
We have Minneapolis going with a Muslim mayor that they're going to elect from Somalia. We'll have New York with a Muslim mayor. People that hate, not Muslims don't hate the West, but these people that are Muslims do hate the West. It's like the mayor of London,
right?
Sadiq Khan. It's no different. And in England, all the major cities, English are minorities. In Leicester, in Manchester, in Birmingham, in London. The English are minorities in their own country.
I mean, listen, these I just call them fundamental Muslim, Islamists or Muslims or whatever, jihadists, but that's their strategies to try to take you over from the inside, run for your offices and start changing your governments into their favor. I mean, we've heard Ilhan Omar say herself that she was there to serve Somalia. She's not in there for the United States. She's not in there for Minnesota. She's in there. She said that Somalia's interest will be of her concerns as long as she's in office. This is what's happening in the United States. This is what happened in foreign countries. We are under takeover. People just refuse to identify that. This is why I've been outspoken against it. I've said it pretty loudly at times, kind of rudely, but I've said it. These guys aren't nice people. We're playing with fire here because we're being too nice to them. There's nothing wrong with people being peaceful Muslims and doing their thing and I have nothing to say bad about them, but these jihadists are they're a problem for us, and they're going to continue to be a problem for us, and they're setting up communities in the United States in various places.
Yep, absolutely, in a big way. Go ahead, Colonel.
Yeah, let's talk about Ilhan Omar. Ilhan Omar, who claimed that she hasn't made money while she's in Congress, is an outright liar. She scoffed at claims she became rich while serving the House. But her financial disclosure report, she's now worth $30 million. When she filed her financial disclosure report in 2024, she's at her assets were less than $200,000. Her income, her net worth is increased by 3,500% in 1 year. She has partnerships in a winery and a venture capital firm, partly owned by her third husband, Tim Manette. I wonder if they're all three at the same time, but three husbands. Yeah,
Right.
so she's a native of Somalia who disses America and spews racial hatred and anti-Christian venom and anti-Semitic venom while sitting in Congress, and she's worth $30 million, soaring from $200,000 last year. This is an investigation begging to be done. Begging to be done. Yeah, so this is, she's a prominent member of the far left House squad, and she's been calling for higher tax on wealthy people. Well, she's one of those extremely wealthy people. Yeah, and she's these people are such frauds. $30 million, $30 million in just 1 year. What's going on here?
Yep, 30 million. And think about this. If you had, barring winning the lottery, Powerball, whatever, if you come up with $30 million in a year, the IRS is going to come and say, what's going on here, Colonel Chris Wyatt? Why do you have $30 million basically overnight? How did that happen? They're probably going to freeze your assets, maybe even take some of that money, and you're going to have to go through a long court battle to prove that you got it, not ill-gotten gains here, that you got it legally through justified means.
Yeah, this anti-Christian, anti-white betrayer of America, and who he is her first loyalty to Somalia, as she stated over and over again, while getting sucker in this country. This is just wrong in so many levels. Wrong.
Right.
And look, I mean, I don't begrudge somebody becoming instantly wealthy, but a member of Congress going from $200,000 in net value last year to $30 million this year. I mean, that warrants scrutiny. I mean, every year that I was in the Army, that I was involved with contracts, which is most of the last 20 years of my career, I had to file a financial disclosure statement telling them every savings account, every brokerage account, every stock I own, every mutual fund I own, every property I own, everything. Very intrusive. None of their damn business, but I had to do it to stay above board. And we have a member of Congress that went from $200,000 in net worth a year ago to $30 million. Where's the uproar? People are got their navel gazing about the Epstein case for a man who's dead, and there's no justice, no clear justice for those who are his victims, other than going after his estate. Yet they're focused on that instead of this nonsense. This is a serious threat to our democracy. There's either influence peddling or something else going on here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've had people in the past, officers tell us and say, listen, don't even accept a ride from a contractor, even if it's hot out and you're just coming back from the chow hall. Don't accept a ride from them because somebody could use that against you. And that's where I learned. Don't accept anything. Not even like a trinket handout that has a logo on it or something that's worth maybe $1. You know what I mean? Don't accept anything at all.
Well, when I worked at the National Security Agency, we would go to these events, these conferences, and there'd be lunch, and the vendors would provide lunch.
Yep.
And we were expected to pay something for it, even though it was free, so that we stayed above board. So we'd have to put money into the kitty to pay for the lunch. And then sometimes I even had the lunch because it was the same. It's always the same thing. These wraps, that I didn't care for.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't even have it. And then I was still expected to pay something just so that we couldn't be accused of, taking bribes in the form of crappy sandwiches. That's how above board we had to be. But, members of Congress going from $200,000 to $30 million in 1 year, and nobody's batting an eye. They're worried about Epstein. I think I'm more worried about Ilhan Omar.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying when I was at the White House Communications. We had on Anacostia Naval Annex, now Joint Base, we had Building 399, and of course we had another annex over next to HMX where we had an office and of course training facilities. And they're like, don't even take a ride from a contractor from point A to point B. Just walk over there or drive yourself, but don't accept it from the contractor because somebody will probably use it against you. Maybe, maybe.
Oh, 100%. I'm with you 100% on that. And that's exactly right. Look, I mean, the thing drives me nuts because when I was a young troop in Germany in the 1980s, we were in units that the S4 controlled the budget so much that we never had money to fix our camouflage netting. We couldn't buy screws and bolts and nuts to repair our generators and our equipment. And so after every field exercise, I would go down to the wash rack after everybody left the other day, and they wash all the dust and dirt, and then down in the half moon shape trench, the concrete where it flowed down. I go through that and sift through the sand and dirt and pull out nuts and bolts and put them together and washers and then put them all in my toolbox so I can repair our equipment. I mean, that's how. And then I would go to the PX and buy cans of spray paint because we couldn't buy paint because there was no money. Now every year in August, mid-August, they'd be like, "Hey, order everything you need because we have leftover money." Yeah, because you wouldn't let us use it during the year when it was supposed to be used. And we privates making $100 every 2 weeks are running around buying cans of paint to paint our vehicles so don't rust. I mean, and so that's how serious a lot of us take our responsibility to our nation. And you've got these scumbags making $28,800,000 in net value 1 year, and then claiming that the rich aren't paying their fair share. I think the rich must include people like Ilhan Omar. I wish I had $28 million in net value. I sure don't.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think most members of Congress and most every American's book qualifies as being ultra wealthy. I mean, regardless of what you define ultra wealthy as, somebody who's a multimillionaire is essentially most every member of Congress.
Yeah, Todd, but I think you're overstating it because I only got 2 pairs of underwear. 2 pairs of underwear.
Yeah.
Of course, we know who that is. That's Bernie Sanders.
Yeah. But, yeah. Right. For SNL. But yeah, he has 3 houses, a honeymoon in Moscow, amongst other things, right?
Yeah. Who goes to the Soviet Union for their honeymoon? That's someone who really has their worldview upside down. And people still vote for him in Vermont. They're a bunch of wackadoodles.
Yep. So for people who are from Vermont who are hearing us or driving through, stop voting for that guy. Come on now, get with the program. Stop doing it. Or what was the saying? I think you should leave, or what was it? Yeah. Maybe.
Oh no, you probably should just go.
You probably should just go. Yeah. He should probably just go at this point. I mean, come on now.
Well, he could join Jerry Nadler. They could go hang out at the Statue of Liberty and learn what America's all about.
Yeah, right. Learn what it's truly all about, right? Instead of some nonsense Manhattan / DC, Acela corridor, elite.
Yep, that's it. By the way, what's going on with Joe Biden's documents case? He stole all that classified information, stuck it in his Corvette, buried in his garage, kept it in a think tank in D.C. that Chinese spies frequented. Any charges on that case? Nah, nothing happened there.
Zero. Nothing's going to happen. And it's funny is that building, and of course his foundation didn't exist whenever he left office as vice president. China funded, the Communist Chinese Party funded that building and helped him set up his think tank. That somehow these documents magically made its way from Delaware to D.C. Yeah,
well, I don't think they ever went from Delaware. I think they went directly from the Senate right on over to the Chinese think tank. I think. Look, I mean, you know the history of Joe Biden. He is rather inept when it comes to protect classified information. I was thinking about Biden earlier today, and I was thinking, because people are trying to run this fairy tale about Trump had died, Trump is in ill health, Trump is not well, and of course that's all been put to rest because it was all just nonsense. The left lose their mind because Trump didn't go on in front of the camera for 3 whole days. But I'm thinking, were we overly harsh with Joe Biden? And I thought about it. He's an old man falling up the stairs. He can't get his thoughts together. And I thought about it. I said, you know what? He's been an idiot buffoon for 40 years. We're not being harsh. That's just Joe Biden.
That's
We're
true.
just telling the truth. Yeah. So I don't think we're harsh with Biden at all.
Well, Colonel, we're probably going to lose you in the next hour. Any final thoughts for you? And of course, anything that we could look forward to, maybe on ESPN or something with Rugby World Cup?
Well, I don't know if people are paying attention, but I think the big news was this past weekend, the best 2 games of the tournament, and I was at both of them, miraculously. The United States versus Australia wound up being a 31-31 draw, which sounds less than satisfying, but was a heck of a game. Followed on Sunday by the South Africa, the Springboks playing Italy, a team they'd never beaten. They almost beat last year, but never beaten. They beat Italy and secured a quarterfinal, the first time they ever go to the quarterfinals. They never won more than 1 game in the World Cup and had won a World Cup game since 2010 in 15 years. So this is huge news. And those 2 games were massive. So we'll see if this weekend is as exciting as last weekend. But I think it's going to be hard to top those 2 games. And it's good because most of the early games were blowouts. I mean, teams were like England beat USA 69-7.
Oh, yeah. Destroyed.
And it was just destroyed. That's how it was in every game. And then suddenly the 2 best games of the tournament took place one day after they're in the same town, and it was fascinating. Ooh. So I'm looking forward to it. I'll be in New York again this weekend to watch USA versus Samoa on Saturday, and then Spain plays on Sunday, and then it's off to the quarterfinals the following week. So that's what I'll be watching. ESPN does cover, but you got to go looking for it. So
yeah, you do.
In the meantime, I'm wondering if we're going to blow any more boats out of the water in the Caribbean. I'm keeping my eyes focused on that.
Yeah, well, I'm going to stay out of my local lake and my bass boat. I'll keep it docked for the next couple of weeks. We'll see.
All righty, guys. All right, I'll drop off now so you guys can take over for the next hour. Thanks a lot. Cheers.
All right. Thanks, Colonel. We'll talk to you soon, brother. All right, folks. Colonel Chris Wyatt's going to drop off, and we'll see him again next week, or hear from him if you listen to it on our radio. We should have about another minute here. We have the music playing us off for the hour. We'll be back at the top of the hour as soon as we get that music. And there it is, ladies and gentlemen. Come back after these messages.
WSMN 1590, WSMN 95.3 FM Nashua. Listen, watch, and stream at wsmn.live.
ABC News, I'm Dave Packer. The American Academy of Pediatrics expressing deep concern as Florida could soon become the first state to eliminate school mandates for all vaccines. State Surgeon General Dr. Joseph Ladapo.
The Florida Department of Health, in partnership with the governor, is going to be working to end all vaccine mandates in Florida law. All of them. All of them.
That includes measles, mumps, polio, and chickenpox. Victims of Jeffrey Epstein making a passionate plea on Capitol Hill to have all files related to the accused sex trafficker released. President Trump maintaining it's all a hoax by Democrats. A federal judge in Boston reversing a government freeze on more than $2 billion in research funding for Harvard University. The administration is expected to appeal. The so-called ketamine queen pleading guilty to selling Friend star Matthew Perry the drug that killed him. This is ABC News. Time is running out to buy Powerball tickets for tonight's $1.4 billion jackpot. In Philadelphia, Nicole, who didn't give her name, says if she wins, there'll be signs.
Oh, I live out my best life. Y'all will never see me again. But I will take care of my family, and then I'm out of here.
The jackpot is the sixth largest in U.S. lottery jackpot history. The Montana man accused of killing 4 people at a bar and then going on the run from police is now facing additional charges, including attempted arson. Michael Paul Brown's already charged with 4 counts of murder, theft, and eluding police. Newsmax has filed an antitrust lawsuit against Fox News. The conservative news network alleges that Fox tried to maintain its market dominance through intimidation and exclusionary business practices designed to stifle competition. Fox says in a statement that Newsmax can't sue its way out of their own competitive failures. Dave Packer, ABC News.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Hi, I'm Chuck McDowell, the timeshare cancellation guy. In 2011, I founded Wesley Financial Group with one goal in mind: to help honest folks out of their timeshares permanently. Today, I run Wesley with my 2 sons, a real family business, treating every client and every employee like we'd want our own family treated. That philosophy has helped us grow into the largest, most trusted timeshare cancellation company in the United States. Fortune magazine even recognized us as one of the best places to work. Why? Because we genuinely care. In fact, some of our former clients were so moved by their experience working with us, they joined our team so they could help others to timeshare freedom. If you're stuck in a timeshare, give us a call. Let our family help your family.
Call Wesley now for your free timeshare exit kit. 800-549-8866. 800-549-8866. 800-549-8866.
Continuing the legacy started in 1904, Roger Pellerin of Gate City Monument Incorporated continues to provide the same high-quality monument, custom headstone, and stoneworking craftsmanship today that they built their reputation on over 100 years ago, servicing Nashua, New Hampshire, as well as nearby areas in Massachusetts, such as Lowell, Billerica, Chelmsford, and beyond. From creating custom monuments to memorialize, to landscaping and granite work, or restorative services. Each job is done to your satisfaction and is backed by decades of experience and integrity. If you're thinking about stonework, think Roger Pellerin of Gate City Monument. Visit online at gatecitymonument.com. Stop by and meet Roger at 321 West Hollis Street in Nashua, or call 603-883-7141. That's 603-883-7141. Gate City Monument, memorials of distinction for people who care.
All right, folks, that's a great commercial. It gives us lets us know that the commercial breaks is about to be over. Having that great commercial right there. Love the voice. I think we always comment on that, don't we, John?
Yeah. You guys usually, I always call it the Wilbur Brimley sounding voice, but yeah. It is kind of an interesting commercial. It's funny to me because I like I guess I gravitate towards more of the hype, the high, motion commercials or songs, music, and things like that. So when I hear a commercial like that, I go, wow, it sounds kind of solemn or just like so slow. And
Right.
it's appropriate for the commercial, but
right.
People gravitate. I mean, you guys just took right to it. Like, wow, that is a good commercial.
Right. Yeah. Really good commercial done right. You can understand what they're saying. They're not like, use car, get the car. Bah, 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 bah,
Oh yeah. It's not
30-second,
obnoxious by any means.
Yeah.
I don't like the obnoxious ones either. I just like,
Yeah.
like when I listen to music, I like some toe tapping, high end
Yeah.
music.
Oh yeah. I don't live up there, but if I did live in, I would definitely go see them because I mean, that's a respectful commercial. It's like, hey, this is what we do. Here's the point. ... Move on. Love it.
Yeah, straight to the point. Very well laid out, articulated. And we're continuing the commercial. This is the extension of the commercial.
Right. Well, I mean, they paid to have their product advertised, and we're on we
No, that's actually the power. That's actually the power of marketing, Todd. I mean,
Absolutely.
how many times you've been standing there at the toothpaste hours? I'm going, oh, which toothpaste do I get? And all of a sudden you hear this jingle coming in your head. You wonder where the white or the yellow went when you brush your teeth with Pepsodent or whatever. And
Right.
he's like, oh wow, wait a minute, that advertising really works. That's all I can think of is that jingle.
Yeah, or the baking soda toothpaste, and I was in a toothpaste aisle. This has been years ago, and somebody looks and goes, "Oh, baking soda. Is there anything baking soda can't do?" It's like they're taking over. It's everywhere. Baking soda's in everything,
Yeah. I wanted to try the charcoal toothpaste, but I never tried that one yet.
I have. It works pretty good. It gets all that the little gunk and buildup off your teeth for sure.
That's the one to go to.
Right, absolutely. Hey, folks, you're just joining us. This is the Common Sense Conservatives. We're live every Wednesday night. We make sense of the inverted reality we are subject to every day. The Common Sense Conservatives are here to help bring you back to reality. And, of course, Colonel Chris Wyatt, our co-host, is in England. He was on the first hour if you're just joining us. And, of course, myself, I'm joining us from Northeast Tennessee, usually, unless I'm traveling. Of course, John Grosvenor holds down the studio there in Nashua, right here on WSMN 1590 AM and 95.3 FM. Of course, you can listen to us online at wsmn.live. If you're sitting in your driveway at home and you're like, man, how do I find these guys? 1590 AM, 95.3 FM, or wsmn.live. Bring it up on your phone. I'm sure your family would love to hear what we have to say. I mean, we solve all sorts of problems. At least we like to pretend we do, right?
Yeah. Well, we're not exactly full of ourselves. We'll admit we don't know everything, but I think we cover some pretty good stuff sometimes.
Absolutely. A free-flowing discussion. We occasionally have guests on here if you've not joined our show before. We have callers on a regular. We just like to discuss whatever's on our mind, whoever leads the show. What we try to do for people who haven't maybe joined the show is each week we try to rotate the hosting duties. And of course, whoever the host is kind of leads the conversation and drives it, can talk about essentially whatever they want to, or just turn it over to somebody else to discuss whatever issues that they want to discuss. I think it works very, very well that way. And it keeps us, mindful and respectful, I think.
Yeah, it's a panel discussion. I mean, and you're welcome to join us on our social media sites. If you want to get on Facebook or YouTube and just look for Truckers Independent Broadcasting Network, or on Facebook, you can just look for Common Sense Conservatives, and we have a Facebook page for that too. And we'd love to get people in here making comments and stuff. And,
oh, absolutely. Yeah,
awesome.
We're on all sorts of platforms. And, what's funny is I've reached out to a number of elected officials, different office holders, state level, federal officials, and to invite them on the program. And a lot of times they'll turn me over to their communications person and be like, well, what's your audience reach or whatever? And I'm like, well, shoot, we're on terrestrial radio in Nashua, which doesn't help most people in the country. But I'm like, we stream it. It's released as a podcast. We got a pretty good audience across the nation. We got a lot of truckers who listen to us, and of course, we have an international audience too, not just in South Africa, which we appreciate those guys down there. But we also have folks in Europe. A number of truckers in Europe actually listen to our show, which is kind of great. Italy, especially, I get notes occasionally from those folks telling us to keep up the great work. They love freedom and liberty. They'd love to be a truck driver here in the U.S. and all that. And we appreciate the support that we get wherever we get it, for sure.
They would hate it if they made the decision to be a truck driver here in the U.S.
Yeah,
trust me, I
especially the
know
way it is
35
now,
years of that nonsense. I can tell you the regulations absolutely don't make sense.
Right, and parking regulations, and of course, big government with the ELD mandates and all this nonsense. You can't park anywhere, for crying out loud. And now you end up parking on ramps, and that's unsafe for a trucker for sure. If somebody speeds off a ramp or tries to speed onto a highway, whatever, that's dangerous for you. Especially if you have to get out and check your load. Whatever the case may be, it's very dangerous for some trucker. You shouldn't be putting them in harm's way that way. We need to find a better solution to this problem.
Well, it used to be truck drivers would find some sort of parking at Walmart facilities and stuff, but towns and municipalities will find them if there's overnight night truck parking or even RV parking.
Right.
When you crack open the paper and you see Walmart and Ormond Beach, Florida, owes $11,000 worth of fines because of truck and RV parking. It's like, well, no wonder why they're booting them. No wonder why they're trying to get them out of their parking lots. That's a lot of money to lose. I
Right.
mean, normally I'd probably knock a big billionaire company, multi-billion-dollar company, but I can't knock somebody when it's the governing body itself that's causing this issue. With all of
Right.
our issues with truck parking and RV parking nowhere to be, that you'd think they would show some leniency somewhere to help alleviate the problems. But see, it shows you government really doesn't care, Todd.
Right. I mean, you have a private company, a publicly traded company, rather, I should say, like Walmart or any big box store, whatever the case may be. Even if you don't own a big box store, you have a big enough parking lot. You want to offer truck parking. That's your right. That's that's like conducting diplomacy, if you will. You're conducting diplomacy with truckers who are potential customers for sure. Why would you want to send them out, and try to find something or park on an on-ramp, off-ramp, whatever the case may be? It's unsafe for them. It's unsafe for drivers, just everyday drivers commuting to and from work or wherever the case may be. Taking the kids home from a ball game or a hot dog, whatever. You put their lives in jeopardy now because you have this big, huge truck that's now on the side of the road, and now all of a sudden you don't know what it's going to do if it pulls out, or if you don't see it, it's maybe parked too close to the edge. You end up grazing it. You hurt yourself, kill somebody, whatever the case may be. It's very dangerous.
They've had cases where people who were registered nurses that work long shifts and stuff, and they were driving home from work, and that truck was parked on the shoulder of a rest area, going into a rest area, and they saw the taillights and they fell in behind the taillights thinking that was the lane. And well, it wasn't. And it was a stopped big truck weighing about 80,000 pounds and terminated somebody's life needlessly. And it wasn't because a truck driver wanted to be there. It's because you can't find any trucking.
Right.
We had that bus case. A whole bus full of people was involved in an accident in the rest area, not because the truck was parked alongside the road, but he was parked in a bad spot in the rest area.
Right.
He had nowhere to go, so they start inventing a parking place. I see it all the time. Truck stops. You would think the fire chief would be in there telling people, "Hey, move! You got to move! You're blocking the planes here. If there's a fire or an emergency, we can't get in." And man, they're stacked in their point. People have to go out the fuel islands. They're sitting there going the wrong way out the fuel islands, trying to get out of the truck stop because it's so packed in there.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's certainly dangerous for sure. And the people that bring, all the goods and things that we love to have, your smart devices, your computers that we're using to communicate right here, whatever the case may be, it probably came on a truck, maybe a train, but a truck got it from the train to the store for sure. Regardless of the size of the truck, it got there on a truck. And we should be treating these folks a heck of a lot better and be more appreciative of what they do, the long hours that they put in. They put their lives on the line out there on the road, for crying out loud. And if you've been out on the road lately and you see how some of these people drive, John, I mean, cutting trucks off as if they're sports cars, for crying out loud,
Well,
and then flipping off the
getting
truck
bad on
driver.
both ends of the spectrum. Okay, so first things first, they like to tell us that truck drivers move 71% of America's freight. I'm going to knock that down and say no. Truck drivers are responsible for 100% of the freight that's moving the United States of America, and I'm going to explain why. How many times have you seen a flatbed truck with the wheels or the axles of train cars going down the road. Those axles didn't get delivered. So
Bingo, right?
If it wasn't for that truck that got the axles to the train cars, that freight wouldn't be moved on the train.
Sure.
They can deliver fuel by pipeline to train stations and airports, but at the end of the day, it took trucks to get the pipe there to do it. When they need to make repairs, it takes trucks there to get pipe there to do it. You don't it just doesn't happen by osmosis. So if trucks aren't involved one way or another, the other 29% of the freight's not going to get moved. So trucks are 100% responsible for freight moving. The other issue we've got going on right now, Todd, is the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration has been slack. Congress gave them the ability to regulate training within the trucking industry. They've done some things about you need, a certified trainer, yada, yada. But these guys are getting out of some of these schools within 2 weeks. They're not getting adequate training and be putting on the road. And then you've got countries, it seems like a country, states like California that are just issuing our driver's licenses. People don't read, speak, write.
Two illegals.
Yeah, who are illegal, which is a federal offense. It violates a federal law. So lax government all the way around is exasperating the problem. And all this does is saturate the market to try to keep labor rates down so they don't have to pay a fair wage to truck drivers. Then they rope these other guys in who want to be owner-operator truck drivers who really don't understand the industry, but they tell them, hey, you know what? We're going to lease you a truck. They make so much money off from leasing trucks to these poor saps that don't know any better, thinking they're going to make more money being truck drivers who end up in a contract where they're running their butts off down the road, not making ends meet, end up bankrupt because they're in the stinking lease program where who's making the money? The trucking company that leased them the truck. As soon as they're out of that truck, they're going to lease it back to somebody else, the same lease. They're not going to no depreciation of value because he paid so much on. No, it's 100%. We're getting, we'll lease it to this guy and make even more money on it. It's a scam all the way around. The trucking industry is a mess. Truck drivers are grossly abused. And enough is enough. This is America's roadways. We need real trained people on America's roadways. We need people who can read, write, and speak the English language. And I'm not trying to knock people that don't, because I've met a lot of people in the Punjabi community that are really, really nice people.
This is a safety concern. It's not a matter of you can't speak English, you better learn English. No, it's a matter of safety. That's where you're approaching it from. I get that.
Yeah. So, safety and a matter of, these small independent carriers need to be able to make a living. And because of the way things are set up, we believe in a free market,
right?
But you can't have a free market where it's so abusive. You got a guy running in the red all the time. How is that going to affect safety if he can't afford his maintenance bills?
Yeah. I was down in Middle Tennessee, which is, Nashua is about 4 hours from where I'm at right now. And I have a truck stop I normally stop at. There's it's in Crossville. I stop at the Pilot going down. On the other side, there's the Buc-ee's, which is, big commercial nonsense. It's too much to try to get in and just use the restroom and grab a coffee. But I was stopped in there when I was getting a coffee or whatever. And there's this truck driver, and I was like, who do you work for? And he goes, I work for Swift, just got hired on. I said, give me 10 minutes to get down the road. I was like, which way are you going?
Get a head start.
Yeah, I was like, which way are you going? And I was joking with him. I abandoned the coffee. I was feeling like I was going to walk out the door. So he was laughing. He's like, no. He's like, I've been driving for like 20 years. I was like, okay, good to know.
They a lot of them Swift drivers do take that with a grain of salt.
But
some of them get mad about it. But
he knew what I was going for. I was like, let me get out of here. Give me a 10-minute head start.
What was that? What was that site Scott created? He created some sort of site on years ago. He used a Swift driver truck in a car at a wreck. It was like mega mistakes is what he called it. Be reference to mega carriers,
right?
And he used a big Swift truck in an accident for his cover photo and stuff. And that site, boom, man! Everybody gravitated to that site.
Yeah, how's he doing? I saw him on Facebook. He lost some weight, right?
You talking about Scotty Reed, or you talking about?
Yeah, you know, I'm a different person. I'm talking about Scott Reed. Yeah, sorry.
Scott Reed's doing quite well. He's a salesman now. He's working for Hydrogen Group. Hydrogen is awesome, man. Hydrogen is like some of the best energy in the world. That's the most abundant energy we have on the face of the earth.
Yeah.
The difficult thing about it is just separating it from the oxygen molecules. We're talking about water here, right?
Yeah.
But it's one of the most fuel efficient fuels to burn. It's
right.
So basically, this company has what you call a hydrogen generator that you can mount on a truck. They sell them for reasonably priced for what they do, and they've had trucks they've doubled their fuel mileage. So using these things for say $7,500 a unit, and you're going to double your fuel mileage, you're going to save a lot of money. I think it's going to pay for itself by the end of the year. You're going to more than paid for that thing.
Okay.
So pretty interesting technology, and that's what Scott's got himself involved in too. And So
Good,
it's the
good
product that
man.
sells itself. So he should do quite well, I hope.
Yeah, good man. Who I mean, by the way, had he not put all this stuff together and put things in motion several years ago, we wouldn't have this show. You know.
Yeah, Scotty was very well involved.
Very
He got in touch with
instrumental.
Tony Justice,
Yep.
who is you know Tony's from your neck of the woods.
Yeah,
And
Jeff.
for those who don't know,
Yeah,
he's a
Jefferson
very
County, I
famous
believe.
musician in the trucking industry.
Oh,
So
absolutely. Yeah. And it's funny as I'll occasionally drive by an old sign that had his name on there. Tony Justice music sold here, you know, and the truck stop's no longer there, but the sign was up for years. It's
wait a
kind of
minute,
cool.
that's the Davy Crockett truck stop is no
Yeah,
longer
yeah,
there.
I think Davy Crockett, one of those, yeah, down that way.
Oh
But
wow, really? What do you mean down that way? You live north of the Davy
I think
Crockett?
it's still there. I think it's still there, but there's a couple of truck stops nearby that I think they're refurbishing some of them and
Oh,
redoing them.
mom and pops and stuff. Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
think
yeah,
that
mom and
DA is
pops,
going
yeah.
anywhere.
Yeah, mom and pops for sure. Yeah, Tony Justice, good man. At least you get him on the show at some point.
Well, I can reach out to him if you like.
Yeah, I'd love to
If
have
he
him
hasn't
on here.
changed his number, I may be able to get hold of him. I mean, we're not tight or anything, but
Yeah,
he's kind of an interesting character. He might come on. I don't know.
love to hear what he's up to nowadays. You know what I mean? Because it's funny as you think about these big singer songwriters, whatever. But then you go to a truck show and you gravitate to where he's at. That's where all the action is.
Yeah, he pulls in a crowd. I think he left
absolutely.
trucking now. He's just gotten so big that music's kind of just taken over his life. So
By
that's
all means,
pretty
hey, good on him. Good on
His
him.
son's involved in the music too. Does a lot of gospel.
Good deal. I mean, he's got the pipes for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So what do you think about the National Guard being used in DC? I think we talked about it last week. But looking to maybe they're going to send some troops to Chicago, and they even talked about maybe some LA and a couple other places. What are your thoughts on sending National Guard to help quell some of the crime and violence in some of these major cities that Democrats have ran into the ground?
So we did cover last week. I brought up
Right.
Title 10, Section 253, which clearly states the president has the right to use the armed forces, militia, or both, or by any means necessary, to take such actions when states themselves will not do their required duties. So he's got the legal authority to do what he's doing. So as far as what do I think about what he's doing, it's one of those things you find concerning, right? Because you look at that and you go, commonly, especially if I look at things in this conspiratorial sort of way, you're like, wow, we're creating a police state. Is that what we're doing here? And the answer to that is actually no. We're not really creating a police state. What we're doing is we're trying to clean up the United States. And that's what Trump is doing. He's trying to use the National Guard alongside of civilian police.
Right.
In order for the civilians. So it's a support effort. It's not a
Right.
takeover. And civilian police will still be in charge, as far as I know. The National Guard is there to assist them. So it's not creating a police state. So I feel all right about that. And I'm ecstatic to think that we're doing something. Drugs have been the ruin of the United States of America. Let's just be honest about it. It's been our downfall since mid 1960s. We've engaged in a lot of drug activity, illegal drug activity. It's always been around. We had guys in the 20s that did cocaine and stuff. A lot of more Hollywood types and things like that. People with money can afford drug habits, because they know how to handle it. They got the money to handle it. So you do a little coke for a while, you do a little this for a while. And I'm not promoting drug use. I despise drug use, but at least they had the common sense enough to stop doing it, go to a place, a rehab facility and clean up and then come back and start their life over again. So they create a cycle. They can handle it. But when you got the average Joe Blow down here thinks, I got my freedoms and I'm going to do drugs too. And I'm going to live like a Hollywood type. They can't handle it, man. They never get a clean out period. They don't have rehabilitation. Now we have rehabilitation, but it's society's paying for it. It's killing us, it's killing us. We can't afford the taxes for paying for drug rehab. We need to get rid of it. So somebody like Donald Trump comes along. This is what we voted for. Donald Trump comes along. He builds a wall. Do I want a wall? No, I don't want a wall. I think it's ridiculous that we have to have a wall, but we need some sort of deterrent to stop these things from happening, from the drug muling, the human trafficking, the nonsense that we've been tolerating for so long. We talk about our Second Amendment rights, but we keep the border open, allowing them to traffic illegal arms into the country. Maybe they're not, maybe they are. Maybe they're getting somewhere else and bringing them in, or maybe they're getting within the country. I don't know. But the point is, if we want to protect our rights, we got to do something to solidify that. So we got a wall. This will funnel them in through immigrations and stuff like that, where they're supposed to legally check in at Border Patrol and Customs agents.
Sure.
And make their declarations why they're here, if they're seeking immigration or asylum or what they're doing. That's where they're supposed to be doing it, not 1,500 miles into the country. They're supposed to be doing it there. But no, we need to stop the drug trades. We need to stop what's going on. And the way to do that is start cleaning up our streets, get the violence out of our streets, start making arrests on these people, make these arrests stick. And I think Trump's doing all right with the National Guard. He's got my approval. Not that he needs it, but he's got it.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. These cities, and especially Washington, needs to be cleaned up for sure. Chicago, those people have been suffering for so long. And what I'm heartened to see is, that there's people in those communities, African-American communities, especially, and of course, other minority communities in Chicago, that have been put out for so long that they're finally speaking up, and they're now willing to come over and start voting Republican, or at least threaten to vote Republican. Don't know if that's going to happen, but I would love to see something like that happen. But at the same time, it's not about just putting a Republican in there. It's about putting that right person in the job or in the position that can accomplish tasks and actually see a mission accomplished. Not just to be in there just to play partisan politics.
Right. I think, I don't know if I dare say it, but I do. If we all went Republican, we'd be in trouble, right? If everybody was one party and we were over dominating party, we need some sort of opposition. So when we do find tyranny on one side, we have an opposing side to take care of it. And sometimes, Republicans are no better than Democrats when it comes out. They're just as, I should say, they're just as susceptible.
Well, they're human beings for sure.
Exactly. There you go.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, I think one of the big problems with, say, the Republican Party is we've allowed, I don't say allow, but we voted for and allow big money to control our elections. And, we've elected a lot of people who've sold us down the river, because they want that money. They want the PAC backing. They want, political action committees and so forth. They want that backing and all the money that goes with it. They're okay to sell the everyday voter down the river. But it's that a lot of Republican voters haven't paid attention to that, and they've allowed the party leadership to control stuff like this. And the big money has basically destroyed the everyday people that the Republicans pretend that they're for. And I'm not saying every Republican, don't get me wrong, but there's many Republicans who've sold out to special interests or big moneyed interests, not the everyday people who put them in office. And that's true across the board for sure.
It's my understanding that members of Congress favor, in 80% of their legislation, they're favoring large, big corporations, these billionaire types, and 20% towards the population within itself. When they favor these large, big corporations, sometimes it's in disfavor of the general population of their own constituents. So they're being swayed by money. If you got to have $1 billion to run for office, who are you going to go to? Because you and I aren't supporting these guys. We can pitch in $5-10 here and there, right? We can afford to.
Right.
But the common person. But when these guys are pitching in huge money and they're doing fundraisers and things like that for them that make the difference, who are they going to favor?
Right. Or the people who paid their tab, if you will. And here's the thing: when I go to a lot of say political events, Republican events, and especially campaign events, and you hear people talk about well, we pay your salary, we did this and this. It's like, first off, you didn't show up during the election. You probably had several other candidates that were on the ballot that you didn't look at, that you didn't bother to help, that you didn't bother to send money to in any way. And then you allowed the big money that's from special money interest, if you will, the big money from outside of your district, from outside of your not only just congressional, sometimes outside of your own state, to come in and decide who's going to win the election. And you did nothing. You didn't stand up and donate, $10-15 to this person over here to give them at least a fighting chance, and instead you have to wait to go, rouse or yell at the person who's in office because they're not doing what you want them to do. But guess what? The person who was right there in line with your ideology, you ignored. You didn't donate to their campaign. You didn't knock on any doors for them. You didn't make any phone calls. Didn't do any work on social media. But you allowed the big money to buy the election. And now they're in office, and now you want them to listen to you? It's not going to work that way. They don't have to listen to you. They got in office in spite of you. And that's why people need to be involved in the primaries.
But, you also got to take into consideration, Todd, is the echo chamber, right?
Right.
You get these businesses that dominate the time in the office. They're the ones that get the appointments. They're the ones that get the big discussions. And and the feel good talk, but they also have the money to create the data and the studies and the things behind them. So when we talk about pharmaceutical companies, big pharma getting their way, it's kind of like, yeah, but they bring in, say, yeah, they're their own studies, but they're bringing in data, they're bringing information, and there's no conflict. So we're not going in there saying, well, I heard you got the study, but let me explain to you why it's wrong. We don't have that sort of function, right? So they're believing the studies they got. They believe the data they're getting sucked in. Their time is being consumed with it. So when we go in there, it's just, three of us go in there, represent the trucking industry. Well, we just follow the ATA in there. And then not to mention the AT, but Warner Enterprises and Schneider National Carriers and Swift that you mentioned earlier. And so on and so on. They have their PACs too and their lobbies too. I forget how many lobbies are, but it's an insane amount of lobbies in DC. So when three of us go in there and we say, all right, well, we'd like to discuss these matters with you. And, we're boring to them. We're just three people representing a small group of people. Well, how many? You get asked this question, what's your membership base? Well, we represent 2,500 people. Well, it doesn't sound as good as ATA's 37,000, so we get drowned out.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And that's the way it goes. What's your membership? And that's what I tell people. I'm like, there's a saying that they're saying there's strength in numbers. It rings true whenever you go lobby an elected official, especially a legislative body like Congress or your state house, state senate, whatever the case may be, even your local county commission or parish, whatever. If you live in Louisiana, your county commission. Strength in numbers. How many people do you represent? Now you go represent. I'll bring up the American Legion. You go into Congress and you talk to a member of Congress. How many people do you represent? Well, they know how many people you represent. You're a national / quasi-international organization with millions of members, and at the same time, you think about what we call the Legion family. That's millions of more people that they have to listen to. So they're going to take you serious as American Legion. But if you're some upstart, local little veterans group, with 20 members, 15 members, whatever, good luck getting a meeting. And if you do get in the door, it's going to be a quick 2 to 3 minute pawn off on somebody, down the line, a junior staffer. That's about it.
The guy who's fresh out of training from downstairs.
Yeah.
They're like, keeps repeating himself, going, oh, I'm so glad you came in here today. He's sort of seriously nervous and doesn't know how to really deal with you.
Yeah. You don't know what it's like downstairs. I don't want to go back downstairs. I want to be up here where they house all you people.
Well, no, they got, I don't know if you've seen it or not, but when you walk in the tunnels down below, they've got training areas where they bring these new staffers in and they teach them how to deal with the public and how to speak to the public, and they give them like keywords that they can resort to and fall back.
Oh, of course. Yeah. De-escalate, if you sense somebody's upset or about to start yelling, you have words to de-escalate, or you can shift tack, if you will, and offer them something, offer them a beverage or a coffee or something. If you know they're going to be in your office for a period of time, you need them to calm down. Yeah. There's things you can do for sure.
Wait a minute. I've been offered beverages before. What are you telling me? I'm a loud mouth.
No. But if they know you're going to be, let's say you have a meeting or whatever, and they know you're going to be in there for a little bit, but you're heated. They want to calm you down before you get in the meeting with the principal, whether it's the congressman, congresswoman, or the chief of staff, whoever you're going to meet with. They try to calm you down, if you will, to be like, hey, can I get you a beverage?
They try to set the mood.
Right, to calm you down.
They do when you walk into an office. They're very low key, kind of talk real soft and
hospitality.
Offer the hospital. They are really nice. I mean, I've been in quite a few offices and spoke with them. It's not too often that guys like myself have got meetings. I mean, I met Ted Cruz and I've talked to quite a few different people, but a lot of times you get, and Mike Boss was awesome, man. I like talking with him. But a lot of times you just get the staffers, but some of them are really nice and they're awesome to talk with. Like I've been to Chris Sununu's office. I mean, Chris Sununu. I guess I have that brain. Chris Pappas.
Okay.
He's a Democrat, and I'm standing outside of his office, and when the people I'm with go, John, isn't that your state? And I go, oh, that's Chris Pappas. It's like, well, let's go in and just see if we can get a meeting. It's like, okay, let's do it. But
sure,
the lady in charge of transportation was really nice to sit down. She was very excited and welcoming. So
that's good.
Wasn't at all a bad experience.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. But it's funny. You walk down you walk down those hallways at the House office buildings and Senate office buildings. You can pick out which ones are going to be receptive to you for the most part. And, you go lobby as an organization, if you will. And they're like, okay, you go to this person, you go to this person. And everybody kind of has their assignments. Everybody has the talking points of, the agenda that the national organization's pushing. But who's going to be more receptive and who's not going to be generally before you even go in.
Yeah, you see that one with the Palestinian flag out front.
Not going to be
Is that what you're
receptive
saying?
to a veterans. Not going to be
In fact,
receptive to a
she's
veterans
being
organization.
censored again.
Right?
Was it
Yeah,
Rashonda Tlaib? Is that
yeah,
what it is?
Rashida Tlaib. Yeah,
Rashida.
she's a piece of crap. Well, even Democrats,
Say it like you mean it there, Todd.
well,
Don't hold
even
nothing back.
Democrats. Yeah, Democrats are now trying to call her out. They're like, she's no longer representing her constituents. She's representing, this
Palestine.
an ideology. She's pushing some agenda at this point. And so don't be surprised if the Democrat machine doesn't try to get her out of office this next go around.
Well, she's up for censorship. I think Buddy Carter out of Georgia brought that up against her, and so I was talking to the wife about. I'm like, I don't know why they just don't expel her. I mean, at this point in time, but what is it? Is it 2/3 or is it 3/4 vote to expel?
Yeah, I couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
I don't remember either.
I'd have to do a Google search on that.
But it's rather large. It's a large body. It's not like just a majority. It's a large.
Yeah, it's a high threshold. Maybe 3/5. I don't know. I don't want to say, but yeah, it's a high threshold because you could be kicking somebody out just for arbitrary means, or they're just a different party, so let's just kick them out, or don't allow them to be seated as a member of Congress, which Congress can do that. By the way, that is a power that they have.
What, to expel?
Well, not only to expel, but to not seat somebody. If there's a question of their election or whatever, Congress can choose not to seat somebody. I don't know that it's ever happened. It may have happened maybe one time in our history, but that is a power that they have, believe it or not.
They well, often when you get censored too, you lose your committee assignments.
As you should. I mean, you can vote on a floor, but you can't vote in any committees. That's pretty much it, and you're pretty much, I don't say you're a useless congressperson at that point, but you're pretty much useless because you can't get anything through committees. And that's where a lot of the nug work is done. Not because once it goes to the House floor, it's a yes or a no, basically at that point. All the work's done. All the stuff's been tacked onto it. All the riders, all the different, all the different, the little money that they hide on there, if you will, to try to get a little extra money. I can't remember the right name of that one. Jesus, off the top of my head. But anyway, all that stuff's already been done. So you're just voting yes or no at this point.
Yeah. If you can't, I think it's 2/3.
Yeah.
I haven't
So
found
John,
the correct answer, but I think
John, don't trust the AI now. Come on.
No, I've been playing a lot on AI lately. It's funny because I made that statement about it's disingenuous and I should be using AI, and here I am chatting away all day long, driving a truck, talking to AI. But it's been useful for looking up news or things like that. But a lot of times it's like pulling teeth because you got to keep digging into it to get the actual news article out of it. But
right. Well, apparently, how you have technology that they can deny, like say, an adversary access to, say, a compound or something like that. Like the White House, as an example, has all sorts of sensors, cameras, and all sorts of things. Now they're incorporating some new AI functions and trying to create some sort of security, additional security level, if you will. And they're testing it with the U.S. Marines, and the Marines were able to defeat it and get right up on their target because they went in and started doing cartwheels and all sorts of weird stuff that the sensors weren't trained to detect. So they're like, oh, this weird movement doesn't count for anything. So it just ignored it as if nothing was happening. And they got right up on their target by doing cartwheels and stupid jumping jacks, all kinds of weird movements that normally they wouldn't actually be doing to sneak up on a target. It's kind of funny.
They game the system.
Yeah, absolutely. So AI is certainly not flawable.
So those who are interested in knowing how many or what percentage it is to expel a member of Congress, it's 2/3.
2/3. That's what we thought.
2/3
yeah.
vote.
2/3. I don't know why I said 3/5. Yeah, 2/3. Yeah, that makes sense.
You racist. You're going back to the
3/5 compromise now.
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't remember the exact number. Yeah, 2/3 makes more sense for sure.
Right. I'm playing with you on the racist thing. I know that you're not, but yeah,
well,
the
I'm
compromise.
A white male Republican from the South. What can I say? Right?
Well, if you was a Democrat, you'd be in a whole lot of trouble for that, right? But being a Republican, you're safe.
Right. Yeah. Well, not according to the left, though. White male Republican from the South, automatic racist.
Oh, I forgot. Republicans are fascists now.
Right. Yeah. We're racist, fascist. We're xenophobe, homophobe. We're all the things that are negative, right? Whatever you're going to make up tomorrow, that's what we are, apparently, according to the left.
Did you want a station identification? I might have one here I can play for you, or you can just give it yourself.
No, go ahead. Play that one. Let's see what we got.
See how it sounds.
Go ahead.
Broadcasting live from downtown Nashua, New Hampshire. You're tuned in to WSMN 1590 AM and WSMN 95.3 FM. Catch us online at wsmn.live or TIBN.us. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, YouTube, or X at TIBN, the Truckers Independent Broadcasting Network.
Oh yeah, who was that? Was that an AI voice?
That was an AI voice.
Okay, yeah, but it had a little bit of like an accent, but then I was like, okay, that's AI. You get like for a second, I'm like, accent? No, AI, because it went flat on me.
Yeah, I need to retweak it. It was a little low on the volume, but
it sounded like somebody
I was
from
playing
New
with
Hampshire.
it earlier this week or last week, and I was like, you know
Yeah.
what? Hey, I can get some station identification on this AI, and so yeah, I just kind of did that instead.
That's not bad. There's some of those AI voices are pretty good. What I'll listen to some history, I won't say podcast, but history videos on YouTube that are AI generated, if you will, or they voice as AI. It's reading from some text, and some of those are done fairly well. The ones that are very robotic, I can't listen to, but the ones that have just like the genuine type of voice, if you will, like an English voice, something like that really soft, like very deep. Yeah.
That's
It
what they're
works.
working on now. They've really worked to improve the AI voices because they irritate the crap. I ain't gonna lie, man. Get on TikTok or something, you're flipping through it, and it's these AI voiceovers,
Right.
and it just got so irritating after a while. I was so sick and tired of it. And not that I'm a big TikTok fan. I don't spend a lot of time on TikTok. It's very seldom, but
right.
I keep thinking maybe I should go back there and start posting. I posted there since November of last year or something, for Trump, but I don't like it, so I just don't go there much.
Well, you're the reason he got elected, right? That one TikTok post helped.
Yeah, that was my 30 views.
Right. Yeah. Hey, that's 30 votes, baby. You know what I'm saying?
30 votes. That's right.
Yeah, you got it. It adds up for sure. But like you just said, you posted on social media for quote Trump, right, during his campaign. That's what we need people to do for local candidates, if you will, your local school board, your county commission, and so on, state rep races. You don't have to attack the opponent, but post things on there that could help somebody, because you think about, your one post that gets 100 eyeballs or 1,000 eyeballs, how much is that worth in actually advertising dollars?
You got a good point there. Many hands make light work. The more
Right.
people get involved, the easier the job. I think the biggest issue for people's understanding politics to get involved in politics, but also feeling a sense of entertainment with it.
Right.
There's so much contention and stuff in politics. A lot of people get turned off and they're like, I just don't want nothing to do with it anymore. Or some people that do get involved, they're just like, vote a straight ticket. Just vote a straight ticket. That's all you do. You vote a straight ticket. It's like, so they don't want to get involved. They just want to, they just check all the Democrats or all the Republicans and they're done.
Yeah, or the folks that just show up every 4 years in a presidential race, thinking that they're doing their level best to help the country, and I get it, that helps for sure, but it's the in between times. It's like, what about the local races, your state races, even the federal races, House and Senate races? What about that? You voted for somebody that's going to be there for 4 years. Well, guess what? After that first midterm, they're a lame duck until they get elected or reelected. And then once they're reelected for a 4-year term, they're essentially a lame duck all over again at that point.
So basically the last 8-9 years or so, a lot of people have seen, I don't know if they've seen a shift in our country or if they just become awakened to what goes on in our country. But we see our federal government expanding continuously, and it's getting overly aggressive. It's getting abusive. It's taking more and more, like Obamacare took a lot away from state rights and things like that. States had their own insurance commissions. They had things set up with insurance companies. When Obamacare came in, it overshadowed all that, and it really disrupted a lot of that. And this continuously keeps happening, and it's a disruption for us. So, and Obamacare really didn't fix anything.
No,
as best I can tell, it really didn't fix anything. In fact, it may have caused the insurance to go up. And at the same time, it may have driven down the quality of service with insurance or medical care. In fact, doctors' biggest complaints are, I used to have so much limited time due to over regulations that I hardly had any time to spend with my patients. To now I have none. I have to send
Right.
them off to a nurse or something to talk to them because I don't have time. I got paperwork to do. I got patient, things to do. They just don't have time to really spend that time. And that's a patient concern nowadays. And that's a doctor's concern nowadays. But the regulations just don't care. And so that's a
Right.
lot what we got out of Obamacare. But the point is it's overshadowed the states. And so the general thought has become, the general consensus is that we need to take our states back. That's the first thing we need to do. If we value our freedoms and we want to keep our freedoms or return back to our freedoms, we have to go at a state level. We have to go at a local level and our state level. So we're basically using a bottom-up approach, trying to regain or recapture our American freedoms because we're seeing them lose them. We're seeing an erosion of our freedoms. And this is nothing new. I mean, if you go back to the driver's license way, way back in the day, somebody actually wrote a book about that, about the erosions of freedoms. See, when they first started coming out with the driver's license, it was being challenged. And a Supreme Court justice actually ruled, he says, well, you have a right to travel. Therefore, you have the right to use a modern day conveyance to do so. What he meant was you don't need a driver's license to drive a car because you have a right to travel. Well, later on, and I don't know where this comes from, I don't recall anything in the U.S. Constitution saying the United States government or any other form of government is responsible for your and my safety.
Right.
But some Supreme Court justice later on overruled, said, well, driving is unsafe, therefore you don't have a right to drive. And basically overturned that ruling and may determine that driving is just a privilege. If a right was a right, then how does it ever cease to be a right? That's what I want to know. Just because a judge arbitrarily ruled it's right, or where in the Constitution does it say anything about sovereign immunity? Anywhere? But a Supreme Court justice somewhere in the early to mid 1800s, I think early 1800s, was it Marshall? I don't remember, but made a ruling that according to British common law, basically he arbitrarily interject the idea or the doctrine of sovereign immunity for the government and state governments, federal and states. So it's kind of like it was never within the boundaries of our U.S. Constitution. There's no statute about it. It just became sort of a judicial doctrine that was adopted, and all of a sudden now you lack the ability to sue the federal government. You lack the ability to sue a state. Now, since then, there have been statutes about how you can sue the state or sue the government and things like that.
Right.
It has to do with a lot about, the state has to approve that you can sue the state. The federal government has to prove you can sue them, or if it's negligence. So if you're driving down the road and get rear-ended by, say, a DOD vehicle or something, and it causes you severe injuries, then you have a right to sue them in a civil matter because the injuries it caused.
But generally, you're going to get a payout anyway. Probably better than to say your neighbor down the street hit you. You're going to get a good payout. But what a lot of times people see is dollar signs. It's like, oh, like you said, DOD, Department of Defense, as an example. Oh, they just plowed into me. They got billions upon billions of dollars. I can sue for more than what this accident is actually worth. And that's a problem right there too. The frivolous lawsuits. That's another problem.
Well, it is that's the nuclear lawsuits and frivolous lawsuits have become a genuine problem in the U.S. But my point is that these things that have been interjected into our judicial system or into our legal system, where they're just eroding your rights away to the point that they've decided that you only have a right to keep and bear arms providing what you say you can keep and bear arms on. And even though they have Supreme Court rulings that have trumped over statutes, and with these rulings they also affect the states and their statutes, but then they turn around and say, well, the states might have a different law. Well, how can they if the Supreme Court already ruled? How can the state have their own law? Because according to my understanding, the Supreme Court ruled that the 14th Amendment applied to all states. That, the Bill of Rights applied to all states. So anytime that the Supreme Court makes a ruling, but it becomes more complicated. Then you get into these doctrines of implied law. Well, because we can loosely connect this with this and maybe possibly that, and some case law from way back when, then it's implied somehow.
Right. And you wonder
we pull this stuff up out of our hindquarters here. What's going on?
Well, you wonder why legal fees cost so much, because you got lawyers that are looking at, case law from 30, 40 years ago, doing a lot of deep dive research, whenever it should just be common sense in most situations. But there's always that, like you said, a judge from years ago made a special ruling a certain way, and that's what you're going to go hang your hat on. And sometimes it may be the make or break your case right there. You know what I'm saying? Or your lawsuit, whatever the case may be. No pun intended, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like, people on the left are listening, they've dealt with the abortion issue.
Right.
You know, I'm not for abortion. I'm totally against abortion. I hate the idea that people would do that to babies. But at the same time, they told them they had a right, and now they tell them they don't have it. Which is it? You know,
right.
This is not right for the American people to have to live in this kind of
here's
confusion and disorder.
But if you read or remember the most recent case, didn't say that abortion is a right or isn't a right. It said that the Supreme Court didn't have the right to hear that particular case because it was a state matter, and they kicked it back to the state. And so that's how they kind of got over it. And they say, oh, we repealed Roe versus Wade. No, they just basically said, hey, we didn't have the right to hear it in the first place, so it's null and void, essentially, right?
You're correct. They said you had
Basically.
no constitutional right to an abortion.
Right.
Therefore, it reverts back to the states, and it's within the states' boundaries whether you may or may not have an abortion. Yeah.
Under the 10th Amendment, correct?
Yeah, correct. So yeah, you're right. You're right. I stand corrected on that one. It didn't take away your right, but it.
You mentioned Marshall a minute ago. You're talking about Chief Justice John Marshall, right? I think he was like one of the first
1820s.
Very,
like the
first one. Yeah. So you didn't like John Marshall, or did you like him?
I don't know. You know, I didn't study him necessarily, but the things I hear from him, there's some things I question, like where'd you come up with this? But some things he was very astute. You know, he knew what he was talking about. He was right on point.
Yeah.
So
a lot of stuff that he had to rule on, he had to go to basically English common law and pull from that because we didn't have anything in this country really.
Yeah, but that's not, to me, that's wow. I mean, really, we just crap on the Brits. Now we're going to go revert to their laws that are in a whole different country. I mean,
true,
how does that apply?
I think you had to set some sort of precedent, right? I don't know.
Well, he was the one that also said that we have to that it's Supreme Court justice obligation to interpret the U.S. Constitution or something like that. But when there's nothing really saying that,
right? Yeah,
I agree with him because he was setting the precedents on that and it was argued. But I do agree with him because didn't we establish the Supreme Court for that reason? It wasn't
right
just
because think about it.
States, but
had they not claimed that power or authority, it wasn't going to be legislated to them. The legislative branch wasn't going to give them that power. So if they're like a co-equal branch of government, one third right of the government, they had to have some sort of power, and that's what they did. Basically, constitutional review, if you will. And that, which I like it.
What was the intention of our forefathers? Wasn't that sort of their intention? Is when there's disputes within the law, right? So when there's disputes within the U.S. Constitution, who would you go to? So I think it was astute on that. I think he was right what he said. So
right, because you think about this state sues this state. Who hears that case? How does that get resolved? Do they go to war? So to keep states from going to war with one another, because you think about it, in those days they were sovereign states. They viewed themselves as their own country, if you will, not as an actual nation like we view ourselves now, right?
Well, they were very, very well segregated, yes, during the Continental Congress, yeah.
Because you had different monetary systems and policies. You had different money policy. So you go across the state line,
Tariffs.
all of a sudden, Virginia's charging a tariff, and how do you pay that with Tennessee money or North Carolina money or whatever? I know Tennessee wasn't a state way back when, but how do you pay for that? So
well,
you had to come up with something.
In short, it was chaos.
Of
and
course.
it was detrimental to certain states. They were suffering from it. So yeah, that's why we ended up with the federal government the way, because they were trying to avoid a centralized government originally.
Right. War created the country, and then the debt solidified it. Right, because the federal government basically took on all the states' debts essentially.
More or less, but yeah, they well, it was just the chaos that was created out of it, and like you said, you were basically getting into warfare with each other, and they were really biased, I guess you might, to turn to left terms here. They were biased against one another. It's like, and it's funny because I had a friend point that out. He said, back in the old days, even in the Civil War, it's like, I'm from the great state of Virginia. It's like Robert E. Lee didn't want to really fight for the South. He really was more pro-abolitionist, but he was a Virginian. So he was loyal to Virginia. So he stayed with Virginia. So he fought for the South. It's not that he was pro-slavery. He didn't, as far as I know, he's despised it, but he was a Virginian first.
Right. Well, he was offered command of the Union Army and turned it down because he knew Virginia was going to secede.
Yeah.
And
people had loyalty to the state right up until I don't know when really did that change? Because it was really that strong throughout the 19th century. It was strong.
Right. Well, I think probably the first global war that we were part of, the Spanish-American War, was whenever I think Americans kind of came together as, we're truly American at this point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
Right. I think that's probably what brought us together. Like, hey, we need to stick together, or these European powers that still has, the glory of, colonialism on their mind. We've got to be careful here. And of course, we maybe want to be colonial ourselves, become a world power. And that's what happened when we beat the Spanish, right? Fairly soundly and quickly, we beat the Spanish.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we did. Yeah, I see your point because there was a lot of contention post Civil War. I mean, we were under Reconstruction and we had occupation of Northern troops in the South to make sure the South didn't flare back up, and so there was a lot of contention. And probably that's what it took to start bringing people back together again and seeing each other as Americans once again.
Right, absolutely, and of course, by doing that, by coming together, that led to various civil rights movements and legislation, and also Voting Rights Act and things of that nature that allowed women to right to vote. African Americans gave them, full citizenship, right to vote, everything. That kind of started pulling us together, if you will, kind of coalescing around a central idea of what it means to be an American, and of course, our Constitution is central to that, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we'll always be a nation, we'll always fight among each other. I mean, all nations do.
I don't have a problem with you. You and I disagree on something and we go back and forth or whatever, but settle it at the ballot box or agree to disagree and walk away. We don't have to go to arms or kill one another, for crying out loud, to disagree. It's a fairly populous country that we can get along and live a fruitful life without agreeing with everybody 100%.
I can handle disagreement as long as you understand at the end that I'm right.
Yeah, right.
And that's therefore that's the problem, right?
That's it. Everybody wants to disagree with me. They're the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. But as long as everybody understands I'm right, that's all that counts.
I love it, John. Yeah. So closing in on the last part of the second hour here of the show was the Common Sense Conservatives right here, WSMN 1590 AM and 95.3 FM. If the music plays us off before I get to hit that again, we'll be back next week, 7 to 9 Eastern. We've still got a few minutes left. For the regular viewers and listeners, Colonel Chris Wyatt is in England right now covering the Women's World Cup, Rugby World Cup. And we'll be back probably in a couple of weeks stateside. So we'll get more than just the first hour out of him. It is fairly late over there. We're glad that he does join us, at least gives us an hour of his time before he gets some rest for the next day. But anyway, for those who do watch from South Africa who are sticking with us, Colonel Chris Wyatt will be back next week, 7 to 9, or at least that first hour next week. Anyway, figured I'd throw that in there, John.
Yeah, I think we may have him on the 17th. It may be as late as the 24th. I'm not sure, but
right. Good stuff. Yeah,
I can't remember his itinerary, but somewhere around there. He said it was somewhere around mid September.
Right, absolutely. Which, man, I don't know if I could sit and cover. I mean, you must love it, very much to be able to go and cover it. You know what I mean? I'm like, who's paying you to cover this? I know he's coming out of his own pocket and doing it for his own viewers and his own listeners. Which I mean, hey, you gotta love it to be able to go do it on your own dime like that.
I think it's a passion. Chris has a passion for what he does. It's obvious, right? When he gets on here, the way he gets very energetic.
Oh, absolutely.
He really is. He kind of gets very energetic. You can tell he's got a great deal of passion for what we do.
Absolutely, yeah, and loves his show. Loves what what he's talking about, and I like letting him go. I like, hey, go ahead, fill some time. You know what I mean? Yeah, give us some in-depth coverage on whatever.
Are you like me? Because usually I don't strike up a conversation. I have friends, I care about my friends. I don't call them very much.
No,
they have to call me because if I'm calling them, I have to have something on my mind to talk to them about. There's nothing that's urging me to call them. So I just don't call them. And they'll call me and go, that phone rings both ways, right? Why do I always have to call you?
Let me tell you, I get it so many times. Like people are like, well, you didn't call me over the weekend. I'm like, guess what? That you can call me just the same. Well, you said you'd call over the weekend. Yeah, I know I said I'd call, but Sunday rolls around. I didn't get around to it. You could also call me. I mean, for crying out loud, you don't have to get
but not a joint.
Oh, maybe you got. I mean, I'm talking about middle age, and some of them are 70-year-old people. Some of them get bent out of shape. It's like you can call me just the same. Let's relax.
I'm actually taking blame though. I got to admit, I'm pretty bad. I'll think about them regularly. Sometimes I'll send somebody a notice. Hey man, how you doing? You talk to them or something. I'll just send them a text message. But I don't have anything. Just to strike up a conversation. When it's doing shows like this, usually somebody else strikes up the conversation. I just feed off from it.
Right. I love that. I don't do chit chat, little small talky, how's your weather? How you feeling? You're alive. Good for you. Hopefully you're prosperous. I don't need to sit there and chit chat with you every night about how you're feeling, how's your gout, how's your whatever. You know what I'm saying? Don't need to do it. Don't need to do it.
That's like people on Facebook. Well, I got home from work tonight, made dinner, read some of my book, and played with the cat, and then I took a bath, and I'm going to bed. You know, it's like you put that on
the
Facebook.
people that have to do these live updates. You know, it's like, oh, you know, it's like everybody that gets into their car somehow has to do some sort of live nonsense or take a photo, you know, or hawk some product. You know, you think about. Watch YouTube. Listen to those YouTube commercials. A lot of them are AI nonsense, but some of them are just ridiculous. People in their living rooms or their kitchen doing a commercial about some product. It's like, who the heck are you? And YouTube's not censoring this. YouTube's not censoring the garbage you're pushing, but they'll censor somebody who's talking conservative politics. You know.
I know exactly what you mean. I see these people in there. It's just. I don't know. I don't want to put on any airs. We just plainly do what we do, and that's it. I go home at night, and I'm done.
There you go. Well, we should have like a few seconds left here, John. Any final thoughts for the listeners out there?
Well, we did miss one article. You know, for poor folks in France, they allowed immigration. A legal immigrant in France had decided it was a good idea to grab a couple of knives and go around knifing people. I guess he had some sort of rebar and a couple of knives, and he was trying to knife people. And hey, there we go, Todd.
There we go. We'll talk to you next week, 7 to 9 Eastern, right here on WSMN 1590 95.3 FM. Until then, take care. God bless.